I call a meeting to order for Tuesday, May 1st, 2018. We are being brought to you live through Whitman Hanson Cable Access. I would ask to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a full agenda today, so let's get down to business. We'll try moving on some of the, I'll read quickly on public announcements. Bear with me, okay? Town of Hanson 2018 street listing books are now available for purchase at the town clerk's office for $10. The Historical Society will be holding its annual turkey dinner on Thursday, May 3rd from 6 to 9 p.m. at Camp Kewanee. The featured speaker will be Judith Calaora, portraying World War women, the unsung heroines of World War II. Tickets are $15 each. For tickets, call 781-294-8645. Whitman and Hanson Dollars for Scholars annual spring electronic recycling day will be held at the McQuon School in Hanson on Saturday, May 5th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. For a list of acceptable items and fees, visit www.whitmanandhanson.dollarsforscholars.org. Those unable to attend may call ahead for special arrangements. For more information, please contact Mike at 781-252-9683. Absentee ballots are now available at the Hanson Town Clerk's office for the annual town election being held on Saturday, May 19th. Any registered voter who is unable to vote in person on Election Day due to absence from town, physical disability, or religious belief may obtain an absentee ballot. Voters may absentee vote in person at the town clerk's office or by mail. Applications for absentee ballots will be accepted at the town clerk's office until 12 noon on Friday, May 18th. For more information, call the town clerk's office at 781-293-2772. The Hanson Republican and Democratic Town Committees will host the annual Candidates Forum on Sunday, May 6th at the Hanson Town Hall at 3 p.m. Residents are encouraged to attend and ask questions on the local candidates. Town meeting will be held on Monday, May 7th at 7:30 p.m. at the Hanson Middle School. A quorum of 100 registered voters is required to conduct the town's business. Please note that the annual town meeting warrant was reposted on Friday, April 27th, correcting the location of the annual town elections set for Saturday, May 19th, which will now be held at the Hanson Middle School due to the impending closure of the McQuon School. The History Channel's American Pickers is coming to Massachusetts. If you or you know of someone who has a large private collection of accumulation of antiques, the Pickers may be interested in spending some time with you. To be considered, place a contact at American Pickers at CINEFLIX.com or call 1-855-OLD-RUST. I watch that show all the time. Do you guys watch that? All right, that's pretty cool. All right, Camp Kewanee cleanup date is Saturday, May 12th. From 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., snack and refreshments will be served. Everyone is welcome to attend and volunteer as much time as they have available. For more information, please contact Camp Kewanee at 781-293-2333. Volunteers are needed on the following committees: 200th Anniversary, Agricultural, Capital Improvement, Community Preservation Commission, Disabilities, Elder Affairs, Energy, Finance, Memorial Day Patriot Observance, Nathaniel Thomas Mill Committees, and Recreation Commission. Applications for appointment and information on the committee is available on the town website at www.hanson-ma.gov. Upcoming meetings, we have the final Plymouth County Reuse Committee will be meeting on Wednesday, May 2nd at 4 p.m., and they'll also be meeting at Wednesday, May 9th, 7 p.m. at the middle school. Selectmen's will be holding a selectmen meeting on Monday, May 7th at 7 p.m. at the middle school. They'll also be holding a meeting on Tuesday, May 8th, 7 p.m. That's a carryover, just in case. And then, of course, on Tuesday, May 22nd at 7 p.m. The town meeting, again, will be the Highway Building Commission will be Wednesday, May 9th, 5 p.m. at the Highway. barn, I guess, right, Kenny? I
Yes.
believe, yep. The Community Preservation Commission will hold their meeting Wednesday, May 9th at 6 PM. And I believe that concludes all our upcoming meetings and events, right? I would like to ask for a moment of silence for former planning board member Gordon Coyle. Thank you. Okay, we've got some new business to take care of, and this is the swearing in of Deputy Fire Chief Rob O'Brien. Rob, and Jerry, would you like to take over, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members, for having us here tonight. It's nice to see everybody here. We have a lot of family, retired fire chiefs, firefighters, and it's good for everybody to be here as we swear in Rob as Deputy Chief to the position of the fire department that's been vacant for many years. Before I continue, I would like to recognize one person that's here tonight, and that's the person that gave myself and Rob an opportunity to work in the town that we grew up in, and that's Fire Chief Peter Huska. Thanks for coming, Chief. Appreciate it. So over the last several years, the fire department has continued to see our calls for service increase as we get to about 2,000 a year. We also have the percentage of our multiple calls increase also. We have as this went on, we also see our code enforcement and the needs of our administrative duties of our department increase. These factors were making it more difficult for our shift commanders to balance the administrative duties and also the daily operations of the department. The funding of the deputy chief position greatly improves the fire department structure and allows us to provide a more efficient and organized fire prevention program. And for that, I want to thank the town administrator, the board of selectmen, finance committee, town accountant, and ultimately the residents for their support. I'd also like to thank the members of our department for their cooperation during this transition period. This is an exciting time for the Hanson Fire Department as we are able to promote a member to deputy chief, a firefighter to lieutenant, and hire a new firefighter. We had 2 members apply for the deputy chief position, and they were put through an assessment center in January. This assessment center evaluated each candidate on their leadership as well as their administrative and management skills. The candidates participated in a series of written and role-playing exercises and were evaluated on their performance in each exercise using a series of predetermined criteria. The final score for the assessment center consisted of the average score of the 5 exercises for each candidate that participated in. Robert O'Brien was a successful candidate. Rob is a lifelong resident of Hanson and currently resides in town with his wife Deb, son Christopher, and Armando, Nathan, and Chloe, who they are in the process of adopting. He graduated from Cardinal Spellman in 1991 and went on to EMT school and paramedic school as he worked for Fallon Ambulance for many years. He started his career in Hanson in 1997 as a call firefighter, and in 2000 became a full-time firefighter. In 2012, he obtained the rank of lieutenant, and he's held that rank until tonight when he becomes deputy chief. He held several positions within our department, including safe coordinator, training coordinator, is a member of the Plymouth County Fire Rescue Training Association, and is the deputy director for the technical rescue team. He served the town of Hanson in many capacities since he was old enough, beginning as a lifeguard at Cranberry Cove when he was in high school, a member of the Recreation Commission for many years, and is currently a member of the school committee, Parks and Fields, CPC, and the town's harbor master. So I don't know how he's going to do any fire department stuff. Rob assumed the position of deputy chief on March 5th and continues to be a productive member of our command staff in this new role. Does the board have any questions? No?
No, thrilled.
Just congratulations.
Just Kim Sloan, come on.
Please raise your right hand. Do you, Robert J. O'Brien, Jr., solemnly swear that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent upon you as Deputy Fire Chief to the best of your abilities in accordance with the bylaws of the town and the laws of the Commonwealth?
I do.
Congratulations.
Rob is going to have his badge pinned on by his wife Deb and his son Christopher.
They got paramedics here. Might get him out of some homework, get you in bed.
Thanks, man.
That's terrific, Robbie. Couldn't happen to a better guy. Thank you very much. Do you want to call recess? That way you folks might want to head out, or you're welcome to stay for us to read the articles. You guys will do that at town meeting, right? Come to town meeting, I promise we'll do it. Why don't we call a 2-minute recess? Go ahead. We'll call the meeting to order. Thank you. So we're going to take things out of order here, folks, okay, to help move things along, I guess. So we're going to move directly to appointments and resignation on our agenda, if there's no objections. Economic Development Commission, Patricia Sointu, 600 Summer Street, Duxbury. Business representative, term to expire June 30th, 2021. This is item 2. Speak up? Sorry. I've never heard anybody say that of me before, but thank you.
If you were sitting here, you wouldn't say
Yeah, no, I hear you. So we have Patricia Sointu. Is Patricia with us here tonight? No?
No, she
No,
had
she said she had the teeth, yeah,
Yes, yeah.
she had some extra dental work done, so. So I would entertain a motion to accept the application for appointment of Patricia Sointu to the Economic Development Committee.
So moved.
Term to expire June 30th, 2021. Discussion.
Yes, I'm thrilled that we actually have somebody applying for this. And it said, I think that it said she's the business representative. Do we know what business she has?
Well, I know that her application says recording secretary for the MBTA, court stenographer for Boston, and construction project coordinator for the MBTA, so,
She has a weaving
Roger?
business at 1000 Main Street.
Oh, okay.
Great, thank you. I knew she must have had a local business. I didn't think it had
That's
to do with
great.
the MBTA, although that could be helpful in the Economic Development Committee.
Yes, she
Her-
was
her
very
background.
enthusiastic about seeing some improvements down on Main Street.
that's really,
love
that's terrific,
enthusiasm.
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, both Mary and I had an opportunity to have a decent conversation with her, and as Mary says, she's very enthusiastic, and I met her when she actually brought her application in towards the end of the day on Friday, and again, had a very good conversation with her and told her how pleased we were with her stepping forward, so,
Great.
we certainly welcome her aboard.
That's great. I think it was moved and seconded.
So it was moved and seconded, correct? You got that recording of that? Okay, no further questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. Welcome to the Economic Development Commission. Ms. Sointu. Okay, 5-0 in favor. Next, we have the 200th Anniversary Commission, Matt Dyer, 68 Woodman Terrace, term to expire June 30th, 2020. And Matt has given us his resume. I think it's under an application. You'll see it on item 3 on your iPads, right?
I move to appoint Matt to the 200th Anniversary Committee.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. I want to thank Matt. Matt's here tonight. Thank you, Matthew. I know you're also running for a selectman. That's terrific. Anybody have any questions for Matthew?
No, it's a great group. He'll enjoy being
cool.
part of it.
That's because, yeah, it's because you're chairman of that, right?
I'm not the chair. Actually, I'm not. Ouch, but no, I'm not the chair.
Okay.
It's a rough group
I thought you
tonight.
were,
I think
I'm
it's 'cause
sorry.
you're in the short
No,
seat.
you're right. I know. They gave me the broken chair tonight, so, okay. Yeah, Kenny did. I know it was Kenny.
Yeah, Jim switched with me and I switched with you.
Paul's got it on camera. All right. So we have a motion made and seconded. Is that correct? Yes.
Yep.
That's correct.
All those in favor of assigning Matt Dyer, 68 Woodman Terrace, to the 200th Anniversary Commission, term to expire June 30th, 2020, say aye. Aye. 5-0, Matt. Thank you, sir. All right, what are we going to do next? We are moving on to why don't we move to the Hanson Rod and...
Nope, we have,
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Item 4, affirm the town administrator's recommendation to hire Mary Ellen Buckley of Hanson as a volunteer integrational coordinator at the senior center. And I think she's here, right?
Yep.
Right there, that's right. Thank you very much. I read your page. I liked it very much. You know the page I'm talking about, right? Your Facebook page. So, all right, cool. Yeah, I know. It made some good points, though, I think, I would entertain a motion. So, Mike, did you want to speak to this or no?
All I'd like to say, I'm not sure if Mary Collins would like to say a word or two as well. We did interview 3 very qualified candidates, and the recommendation before the Board of Selectmen is to hire Mary Ellen as the volunteer coordinator, intergenerational coordinator. She's had approximately 6 years of volunteering experience up at the senior center. She's very well liked, very well respected, and is a natural fit for the position. And I think Mary and I are very happy to recommend that the Board of Selectmen officially vote to give her the position. So, Mary, I don't know if you want to...
I agree. I have had the pleasure of knowing Mary Ellen now for about 6 years, and she has been so well received at the senior center because of her integrity, her kindness, and her compassion, not just with those that we are serving there within our supportive day program, but also all of the volunteers that come there to help. And you put a lot of personalities together, and you have to have a certain demeanor in order to make things work and move smoothly. And Mary Ellen encapsulates all of that and more. I couldn't think of anyone better, and I'm so pleased to have her join our small group at the senior center. We work very closely together, so to have people of like thought and belief in terms of how we deal with our senior population is very important, and Mary Ellen will be wonderfully welcome. I hate to lose her volunteer, however. So I really appreciate the fact that Mike has spent some time getting to know Mary Ellen as well. Feels strongly that she's truly the right candidate for this position.
That's terrific. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions for Mary Ellen?
No.
No? Okay, we did motion and second?
No.
Not yet.
No.
Would somebody motion to?
I'll second.
Okay. This is a
Motion
motion
that
to
we-
affirm the town administrator's
Yeah.
recommendation to hire Mary Ellen Buckley of
Yeah.
Hanson as a volunteer intergenerational coordinator at the senior center. Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 5-0, you're in. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, now we move on to the request, which is the Hanson Rod and Gun Club Annual Fishing Derby, June 3rd from 6:30 in the morning to 11 a.m. at Wampatuck Pond. And again, this is item 5. I think the gentleman's name was Justin Jerome from the Hanson Rod and Gun Club
He's
has
their
requested.
president.
Yep.
I move that we grant the permission for the Hanson Rod and Gun Club to use Wampatuck Pond, and I assume also the Town Hall Green kind of?
I think so,
Is
yeah.
that?
Yeah, they'll be over the whole
Yeah,
property.
on June 3rd from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
5-0. 5-0 on item 5. Okay, we're at 7:22 in the hour, right? And we are expecting the FinCom to come in, and they're not here yet. They're having a meeting at 7 o'clock. Is that right, Mary?
Correct, they expect to be down here at...
About 7:30-ish,
We
right?
could do reports if you wanted.
Sure, why don't we go to,
Oh, liquor licenses.
you want to do local licenses? All right, we'll move out of order. One-day liquor license, we have item 8, West Bloss, Perry Ave, Saturday, May 19th, from 4:30 PM to 9 PM at the Nathaniel Thomas Mill, private party.
I move-
Motion.
Yep.
Motion.
Second.
Made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
5-0. Item 9, Friend of the Hanson Library, Tuesday, May 8th, from 6 PM to 8 PM at the Hanson Public Library fundraiser. I would, who would motion?
Motion.
Oh, go ahead.
Motion has been made. Has it been
Second.
seconded? Seconded by Laura. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
5-0. And these are for the one-day liquor licenses. Okay, cool. We also have the
Item 6.
item 6, right? Edit and vote executive session meeting minutes for March 20th, 2018. So I would entertain a motion, these are item 6 on your iPads. I would entertain a motion to accept the meeting minutes. as amended.
Motion.
Second.
Made and seconded. Mary, these can be released, is that correct? or no?
Yeah,
Yes, I
we,
believe they
can be,
can. You
right?
might want to just read what the amendment was.
they were originally released when you voted them, and I don't think there's any reason that you can,
Okay.
you can't have them so outfit.
Okay, so the amendment was, Mr. Hickey noted on October 1st, 2018, in Mr. McHugh's contract for action on successor contract. Mr. McHugh stated that he had sought the opinions of both the General Counsel and Labor Counsel on the extension he was requesting, and both agreed it was permissible. And I remember that we did talk about
Yep.
this, so that's a good add, okay? So, motion has been made and seconded. Is there any questions to this amendment? Okay, let's call to vote. All those, it has been made and seconded, right?
Yes, it
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. 5-0. I'm gonna have to start marking this down when it's made and seconded. Okay. We have more to go with, so, Mike, what are we talking about?
Committee reports, I would say.
All right, let's move on to the committee reports. We're at 7:24, 200th Anniversary Committee. Laura.
Well, things are popping along on the old 200th anniversary committee. We've got some fundraisers that we're lining up for 2019, one of which will be to be up at the Plymouth County Hospital, the front part of the building where the food pantry currently is, formerly the 4-H Extension building, and we're gonna have some, our plan right now is to have some displays with artifacts that the Hanson Historical Society is going to provide, and then to have some T-shirts and canvas bags and other affiliated tchotchkes up there. We're still working on what tchotchkes we will be offering. We also have got quite an extensive list of events coming up in 2020. Again, we're thrilled, Matt, that you'll join. You'll really love the group. It's an excellent, mix of people with all kinds of backgrounds and ideas, which makes it a lovely committee to be on. And we would welcome people, since we are going to have a number of fundraisers in 2019 and then a number of events in 2020. It takes a village, and we need a village, and right now we just have a little house. We don't really even have the whole village. So if you're so inclined, would love people to just volunteer to help on one of the committees, either a fundraiser or one of the events. For instance, we're planning tentatively to have like a movie night at McQuon with food trucks and tailgating. That's not super heavy lifting, so if somebody feels like that's something they'd really like to participate in helping to put together, would love to have you help with that. If you want to help us put together the pop-up shop that we're going to be doing up at Plymouth County Hospital, we would love to have you participate. Really, anything. And if you've got ideas, we would really love to hear from people. If you have any additional ideas, we're not locking this down yet. Very much still in the mode of kind of brainstorming, but we're getting close to starting to try to, formalize it and solidify it, just because we've got a lot of planning to do. And I never thought I would say, we might not have enough time to do it all, but here we are in 2018, and there's a lot to do by 2020. And also, in short, clear your social calendars, because you will have no time to do anything but 2020 activities in 2020. We will be having things every month, practically every other week, for all ages and all likes. So that's the 200th Anniversary Committee report.
Thank you. Next, we have the Mont Ponce Pond Committee.
I have not heard of anything from anybody. I don't know why. But now that it's May 1st,
They
I'm
might start.
surprised that they'll be doing something up there.
Next, we have the final Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee. I know that we're meeting twice, we read in the agenda, right, Donnie?
Yeah, we're meeting
May 2nd, May 9th?
Tomorrow,
the-
yep, and then the 9th.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
meeting tomorrow and the 9th of next week, but it's gonna be at the middle school. It's
Now-
7
Are
o'clock.
both meetings going to be at the middle school?
No, the
Tomorrow
9th.
night
Just
it's
the
right
9th.
here.
Right.
Now, the 9th, you might want to, is going to be, the Conway School is like looking for public input.
There-
Yeah,
Well, we're inviting the public to be,
Yeah.
that's why we got it at the middle school, because I hope we're gonna have to need the room for people that are interested in doing up at the Plymouth County Hospital. The Conway School's gonna be there, and they're gonna have suggestions and so forth of what can be done with the whole area. And so, we'd really like the input of the residents up there as well. because it's not fair to have just a group of one committee just say what's going to happen. I think it should be done by the whole town. And I'd appreciate if a lot of residents in the town would come up on the 9th, 7 o'clock at the middle school.
So this would be an important meeting.
It's
If- if-
important to
If you've
me.
had ideas, you've.
We've got
particular-
ideas, a
yeah,
lot
yeah.
of people have got
Yep.
ideas. Well, these ideas are trying to be put together
Yep.
so that it can be organized and really figure out what's going to be done up there. There's 52 acres of land up there, and it's nice. It borders High Street, parallel with High Street, and it runs for about 3/4 of a mile from Pierce Avenue all the way down to Wampatuck Pond. In other words, you could have a pier at the town hall and a pier at the Wampatuck end of the Plymouth County area, and people could park at the parking lot and go up there in a canoe and picnic or do whatever they want to do. But these are just ideas that we've thrown around, and we just like the public's input of it.
And Mr. Chairman, we, just to follow up on Don's comments, the Conway School, as we've reported out in the last previous meetings, is a graduate school of public planning in the western part of the state. So we're very excited to have them come and get the input, as Don has mentioned, from as many residents as possible. The Express will be running an article, I believe, in its editorial page, I think this Thursday. The Boston Globe, I believe, is going to run something this Sunday in the southern edition, so that we get as much word out there as possible. I know that, I haven't seen it yet, but I know we've reached out to cable to try to drum up some publicity through that avenue as well. So, you know, we're really looking for that input, as Don mentioned, from as many people as possible. It'll be from 7 o'clock to hopefully till 9:30, if there is that much to discuss, and we hope there will be that much to discuss. So, again, the Conway School, it's actually a graduate program that 2 students are doing for us.
And actually, just prior to that meeting is the Community Preservation Forum, which is another great opportunity. If people have got ideas about projects they'd like community preservation to take on, this is their required annual forum that they have. So it's at the same place.
And there could be an awful lot of crossover,
There
so.
likely will be.
So
yeah.
the preservation is going to have it
Hopefully.
also at
Yep.
middle school?
Huh?
What's the date of that?
That's May 9th.
May 9th.
Same,
Yeah.
same
That's 6
night.
p.m.
It's
though.
Donnie's, I
That's 6, and then the other meeting's at 7.
In the cafeteria.
Okay,
Yep.
in the calf, okay. All right, thank you, Dawn. Next, we have the McQuon School Reuse Committee.
So I think we mentioned at the last meeting that Mike and I kind of put our heads together, strategized a little, and decided we needed to take a different tact to this, because we weren't feeling as though the meetings with the larger group were particularly efficient. So what we have done is we've come up with a little timeline that I've given Mike of things that I would like to have done before we meet with the committee, so that we then have got this prep work done, this foundational work. One of those was to talk to the Housing Authority and just see if they might be interested in potentially doing housing up there, or even just have a conversation about it. That was a very illuminating conversation. We learned a lot. As a result of that conversation, Tom, who is their, I don't know what his technical title is. Director.
He's the director.
Okay. Had suggested, and we had kind of thought about this and brainstormed in one of the meetings that we had, that we probably should do an RFP and look at doing that for several reasons, not the least of which is the state really isn't particularly in the habit right now of giving housing authorities money to take on these type of projects. Then you've got the secondary consideration, which is that if a town were to take on a project like this, of course, you'd be paying prevailing wage, which of course is going to make that economically probably not very feasible. And then the third reason would be that there may be some ideas out there that we don't even know about how to use that property. So I think that's one of the next things that we're going to do. And then we've got some other steps, but I'll report in as we kind of make progress on those. And just to kind of, make sure everybody's on the same page, Once we get this information and the committee meets, it's obviously going to be brought back to the selectmen for the selectmen to make a decision. But what my goal is with Mike and the committee is to do as much of the vetting as we possibly need to, so I can literally give you guys an executive summary of, here's the things we looked at, here's the pros, here's the cons, here's the costs, here's what we did. Where do you guys want to go with this? Okay?
Just to follow up too on Laura's comments, in that discussion that she and I had, we had decided it made sense for me to reach out to any area towns that may have gone through such a process, which I have, and I'm receiving feedback from 4 or 5 different towns: Air, Sharon, Athol, and Situate. Although the project in Situate, it actually was quite some time ago. So although Jim Bedreau is going to get me that information, it might be a little dated at this point. But we'll look at that, and I do think that, as Laura touched upon, I do think that it does make sense for us to put that RFP out. But it's a couple of weeks at least down the road, and I think that what would make sense is for us to come and ask the full board, its consent in putting that out. I see no reason not to, but I would like to give at least maybe a draft version of the RFP that we would put out. And I'm not shy to say it'll probably be plagiarized from these 4 different towns, but.
So quick question, when did Bob's with us, we're fortunate to have you here. When does the town officially get the building back? Is it September?
I think
Was it
you guys had said September.
I
You were
thought it
going to
was
need some,
September.
originally it was like
We're gonna need
June,
a
but there's
little
some
bit of time.
transition time.
Clean up and
Yeah.
everything.
Afterwards, right, so it could be October, I get it, that's cool.
In that general vicinity.
But we've got to be, once that's passed over to the town's going to incur the cost of insuring that building too, right?
Insurance, utilities, any kind
Utilities,
of
all that
maintenance.
stuff, so
Yep.
hopefully, Mike, I know that, our budget is out there, man, but I
Yeah.
thought it's going to be pretty expensive, I thought it was
Well,
like.
one of the small nice things about what Bob just mentioned is I did speak with the superintendent this morning. The North River will be in there through the summer, so I think we may have costed out the expense of the insurance up for a full year, for a full fiscal year, so I don't think that we're necessarily in a position where we need to carry it for a couple of extra months, so that knocks it back a little bit.
That's good.
And certainly, I don't think we would be at first if there were other activities that needed to go on in there. We're okay with that. As Laura mentioned, it's going to be a bit of a process in deciding what we want to do with it going forward, so.
Right. That was just a caution and reminder that we're going to have to pay for that.
Yep.
So, okay, cool.
The bill's going to come due.
Next, thank you,
think
Laura.
Mr. Hickey-
I'm sorry, did you have a question?
No,
Oh,
Okay,
sorry,
good.
I didn't mean to mislead
That's
you. I
okay.
thought he was.
Hanson School Repair Committee, Jim.
I actually have a lot to say, Mr. Chairman, but obviously Laura and Donnie took up all of my time. So, no, we're not meeting until after town meeting.
Thank you. Highway Building Committee.
We met, last Monday we met, because we haven't met in probably 7 months, because there's just not a lot going on. So we basically had a brief conversation with the engineer from Weston and Sampson, Dan Tenney, just about the process of the RFP. Once we get to that point, and then we're gonna put that out for bid, and just kinda, where we are with numbers from last year, and, right now, we're kinda at a standstill, because we have to do, Weston and Sampson was the original firm, so we have to put out an RFP over probably one, Michael know better, the next week or so, for a new engineer to move forward.
And I can follow up on that, Ken. I am going to be meeting with Dan on the 7th of May, and what we're going to go over, and it's not a conflict, we're going to go over putting out an RFP, which I would well imagine Weston Sampson will put a bid on, as others. Everyone will be open to bid on it. I will confirm this when I meet with him, but I don't think it's going to be a lengthy procedure. It's either going to be sort of a boilerplate, lengthy RFP with just some changes particular to the town of Hanson and its project, or it may be as short as 2 pages. But as soon as as soon as I have those conversations, the board has already given me the direction to do such, so I will not be coming back before the board. I'm just going to do it. But in addition to that particular aspect, or that particular part of the conversation, we're also hopefully going to jumpstart The other project, this much smaller project, which is taking a look at the existing building. We had some back and forth with Weston and Sampson a few months or so ago, and they're just getting back around to being able to undertake that. So that's something that we more or less, he and I can just decide upon on the 7th and just move forward on that as well. Since, again, the board had already given me the marching orders on how to proceed with that. Brendan Fagan with GEI actually just came in yesterday and dropped off a new set of plans for both the highway building committee's use and for conservation. So I've given those to Matt. He's reviewing them. There's other issues that need to be tackled. I don't think any of them are really all that unsurmountable, but there's still a process where conservation needs to give its blessing to certain things, and the Army Corps of Engineers. So there's light at the end of the tunnel. It still may be a little bit away, but we're getting there. So
Thank you. Okay, I don't see the commission with us, and Bob, I'm not ignoring you, but I thought that we would talk about I thought we would talk about the school committee amendment to the regional district, discuss the amended regional school district agreement when we get to the article, but I'm thinking
I'll do it right now.
we'll do it now. Why don't we do that now? Because we don't need the
Yeah, if you're on the agenda.
FinCom for that, right?
No.
Would you be okay with it? Absolutely. Take this podium, please.
Thank you.
The
So,
agreement's on your iPads.
item
It's
1D.
item 1D, I believe.
Regional Agreement Amendment is a product of the work of the Regional Agreement Amendment Committee in conjunction with the consultants from the Mass Association of Regional School Committees. The Regional Amendment Committee, consisting of school committee members, town representatives, and administrators, spent nearly a year reviewing and revising the original agreement from 1956 and the amended agreement from 1992. The goal of the committee was to update the document to reflect legislative changes, financial agreements, and current facilities. The legal department at the Department of Education and Secondary Education has determined that the regional agreement amendment is acceptable and appropriate. They've already looked at it. On Monday, April 23rd, 2018, the school committee voted unanimously to approve the proposed regional agreement amendment. In order for the regional agreement amendment to go into effect, it must be approved by DESE, the boards of selectmen of Whitman and Hanson, and by the voters of town meeting on the 7th of May. On Tuesday, April 23rd, 2018, the Whitman Board of Selectmen voted to approve the new amended regional agreement dated 4/19/2018 as presented, and will place the article on the warrant for the 2018 annual May town meeting. I'd like to thank the committee members who consist of Mr. Small, he's a school committee member from Whitman. Mr. Howard's a school committee member from Hanson. Mr. Daniel Salvucci, who's on the Board of Selectmen from Whitman. Mr. Rick Anderson, who's on the Finance Committee from Whitman. Mr. Christopher George, who is from the town of Whitman, he's a community member at large. Mr. James Hickey from our own Board of Selectmen, thanks Jim. Mrs. Amy Wright, she's on the Hanson Finance Committee. And Mr. James Egan, these are all voting members, and he's a community member at large. Also, non-voting members were Dr. Ruth Gilbert Whitner, she's the superintendent of schools, and Mrs. Christine Suko, who's the executive director of business. Also, we hired, and this is pretty atypical of a region, we hired Mass Association of Regional Schools, which is called MARS. Steve Dunneman, who was their regional director. Mac Reed was Steve Dunneman and Mac Reed were the two members. And we had Steve Hemming sit in, who was their director. And I spoke with him as early as probably an hour ago about a couple of things. So we're looking for the Board of Selectmen to vote it in Hanson to approve to put it on the warrant, which I'm looking for this evening.
Thank you, Bob.
Do you have any questions?
Questions?
Did somebody tell me that there were changes to this document that we have in front of us?
If it's the one dated, the one we have in front of you is the one dated April 19th.
Right.
That's the one that they actually voted, correct, Bob?
Yes.
Yes. So you have
That's
the
the
most
final-
updated copy. It's written, it's draft because that's when I got it.
Yeah.
It said draft on it. Now, did the school committee sign the document, or how does that work, Bob?
If I haven't signed it for the school committee yet, I will, obviously.
Right. Because what we have on file in the town clerk's office is the document that the board has before them, which is marked as a draft. and, you know, for posting purposes.
So how do we know that there weren't any changes between, because we don't have the executed agreement. How do we know that this is the final document that we're looking at?
We're counting on Bob to tell us that they didn't make any changes from the
All right, so
19th. That was the one that what they vote, the one that.
Mr. Hickey
before
was
you-
at the meeting when we
Yep.
voted it.
And there's been no changes. Okay.
Okay.
I think there's some confusion, Bob, and maybe you can address it, that I had a conversation with, the conversation, an email back and forth with the superintendent in terms of the timing of this verbiage and being able to put it on the warrant. The warrant had already been published, so, you know, we weren't able to actually promulgate it on the warrant. So I think there was a bit of back and forth as to whether or not there had been any additional changes that hadn't been voted on the 19th, that the board that you just mentioned hadn't considered and approved. So I think you've just given that clarification. And again, there was some, I told the Board of Selectmen that, you know, there may have been some changes at the 11th hour. I wasn't 100% sure, but that you would address it. And I believe that you've just addressed it. And I think that's where you're getting some of the questions from some of the members.
It was a fairly quick meeting. We had some discussion, and I know there's been some discussion locally about, you know, what could happen with towns pulling out, if they wanted to pull out. At any time, I just talked to Mr. Hemming, he said the town can petition the DESE to amend the agreement, either town. So there is no like,
Without the school committee's approval.
exactly, the town can vote on their own with a certain amount of people or signatures, I'm not quite sure of the exact number, but they can vote to amend the agreement. And as long as DESE, Department of Education and Secondary Education, approves it, it
Okay.
can be amended.
So.
One thing to remember, and I know, not to interrupt you, Laura, to think about this, is there was talk of a pre-K to 8 maybe pulling out. You know, what would happen? People's rights are getting bludgeoned, we'll say, or whatever. At any given time, either town can vote to move out, and it would dissolve the regional agreement. Okay?
Without the
As
school
long
committee.
as long as the Department of Education and Secondary Education approves it. Because by law, the town is required to teach students.
Yes,
You would have to come up, being the town, will say, would have to come up
your own superintendent.
with,
yeah.
well, they'd have to come up with a plan
Yeah, oh,
on what to
absolutely.
do.
And submit it to be
And then that would
approved.
have to be approved. So all of this is voted on, whether it would be town meeting or by petition. I'm not particularly 100% sure with how the law works.
Yeah.
But I just spoke to Mr. Hemming, like I said on the way down here, because some of these questions were asked. And there are remedies for the town to change it. Now, there are other stipulations that would be problematic, and Mr. Hickey's looking at me. Because we spent a year doing this.
Yep.
And some of the stipulations would be, and people are starting to see, OPEB is called Others Post-Employment Benefits. The town has roughly a $50 million OPEB bill. If a town were to pull out of a certain amount, the town would be required to come up with somewhere in the 10 to 15 to $20 million to settle the OPEB agreement before they could move. So there's a lot of financial things, there's a lot of advantage to being in a regional school system. It, obviously, one superintendent, you know, on and on and on for two towns, and it saves money. Right now, the town of Hanson, because another discussion that we had was, someone said, well, town of Hanson pays, Whitman pays 60, and the town of Hanson pays 40. And the town of Whitman has 6 members, and the town of Hanson has 4 members. It's weighted to Whitman. It's weighted to Whitman because in the agreement it says, as of the October 1st enrollment, whatever the enrollment is with the state is how that's weighted. So if the town of Hanson, the town of Whitman, I'm sure would love to say, hey, we'll split it with you 50-50, but the agreement says 60-40. And believe it or not, a couple of things we discovered when we were going over this agreement. A person came forward and said, how many children physically go to private pay-for schools, not school choice, Thayer Academy, pay for schools, Cardinal Spellman? So we looked at it. It was 150-odd kids. You know what the split was? exactly 60-40. 60% from Whitman, 40%. I was amazed at the number. I never figured it would be that exact split. It's exactly the same split. So it seems to be
It doesn't change the
working.
bottom line,
Pardon me?
It doesn't change the bottom line on who was.
No, not at all, but it was an interesting figure to see that we have quite a few children going to private schools, and it's still split 60-40, which was amazing. Like, it wasn't 63-37, it was 60-40, almost exactly to the number.
Good point.
So through some of this regional agreement, and one of the reasons we looked at this is it hadn't been redone since the early 90s. It didn't have schools in it, like Hanson Middle School, I think, is 18 to 19 years old, wasn't even listed in the agreement. But yet, schools that we no longer use were listed in the agreement. So that was some of the updating. And then some of the legalities of, the laws have changed through the Department of Education and Secondary Education, so some of the amendment was antiquated and the laws needed to be updated. But again, just to put everybody to rest, the town can petition the Department of Education and Secondary Education to dissolve, to amend, to do anything they want at any given time with a certain number of votes. So nobody's rights are truthfully getting trampled on. It's the vote of the people at all times.
Okay.
And I've made a note, Mr. Chairman, I'll get the specifics, I'll reach out to the Department of Education, and I'll try to report that back at the next selectmen's meeting, just so we can put particulars to it.
That's good to know, because I do
Yeah.
think that was a big,
Yeah,
that was a big point.
I agree.
I mean, I think, are we open to discussion?
Absolutely, go
Okay.
ahead, yeah.
Obviously, this needed to be updated. I mean, having schools like Park Avenue in there and not having Hanson Middle would indicate that this might be a little bit outdated.
Yeah, we didn't mention the schools in this one, right?
No.
And
Avoid that.
I definitely appreciate all of the time and effort that everybody put into this. I don't want to second guess what people have done, but I would like sufficient time to review this, and I do not feel that voting on it tonight affords me the sufficient time that I would like to have. So I would like to offer up for consideration that perhaps we make a determination at our next selectmen's meeting, which is just prior to town meeting.
So that would be Monday, May 7th.
Yeah.
Would that be okay, Bob? You're good with it, too?
It's fine, it's on the warrant anyway, right?
There was one thing I wanted to point out, Bob, and I think it's okay, it's a minor issue. So under the page 3, it says pupils in grades 9 through 12 shall attend Whitman Hanson, blah, blah, blah. Pupils in pre-kindergarten through 8 shall attend schools located in their towns of residence, except on the recommendation of the superintendent of schools and the vote by the committee. Because PK, we're gonna have actually at the high school, right? So I'm
Yes.
assuming that that follows under that second point? where
Yes.
The superintendent said basically, we're gonna have it at the high school instead.
Yes.
So that doesn't matter, there's no
No.
change.
Is there a way, Mike, that you can get the DESE opinion? And Bob, are you able to get a memorialization of what your council told? Was it DESE you spoke to? Or was it your
Department of
council?
Education,
Okay,
Secondary
it was.
Education, and MAS,
Okay.
which is Mass Association of Regional Schools.
So is there a way either or both of you gentlemen could get that in writing for us?
I think that the portion that I had said I would look into, I'm pretty certain I can have that by town meeting.
Okay, thank you.
And just as a note, Bob, and to the town and to the people, we, on all contracts in prior selectmen meetings, we've always had legal review, our own legal counsel review.
Yep.
So that's what's being conducted also.
That's fine.
Okay?
Yeah.
You can never be too careful.
Well, that's, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's just,
We're just looking at it. I mean, we know you've got the best interest, but we've got a different set of eyes we have to look at it, and everybody's just got to kick the tires and get where we're comfortable.
So what I will do is, I'll post on the warrant, on the website, a copy of this, so people can, it's posted in the warrant saying that there's a copy available at the town clerk's office. I do not see a flood of people coming in and looking for it. But if I put it on the website, people may be more inclined actually to read it and be prepared when they go to town meeting.
Yep.
Isn't that how the warrant reads, Mary?
That's exactly how the warrant reads, that a copy is available at the town clerk's office. But
Because, I mean, if they were to read it that night, it's
that's why it's not in the warrant.
12 or 13 pages long.
Exactly. And I checked with town council to see if we can do this. So by putting a copy of this on the website, it'll give people an opportunity to look it over before they come to town meeting.
And it's not too difficult to read, it's only 12 pages, which isn't
No,
much.
it's not huge.
11 and a half, really.
I do appreciate Bob reaching out to DESE, because I think that kind of addresses some of the concerns that I think I've been hearing and I've had myself,
Yes.
so.
But we want everybody to be completely at ease with it. Because the last agreement, like I said, it was dated in the early 90s, and it's never been looked at since. I looked at it and went, this needs to be updated, I want to get to this, and I kind of initiated it, and then we impaneled the committee, we came to you, and you appointed Mr. Hickey and some other people, and we started out at it, so it's been about a year.
What's good about this is that it'll carry over so that if there's a change in the schools, like we have now, right? In the contract, it says elementary school, and obviously, the middle school. We're not saying the name of it, so.
No, this is more
so it's covered.
evergreen. Yeah, it's evergreen.
It's a better approach. Otherwise, you're gonna have to update it all the time.
Well,
right?
it's just something that was overlooked over the years, it never was an issue. I mean, both towns have been running along great with what's been going on, so hopefully both towns will keep running along great for the next 20 or 30 or 40 years, 50 years.
Yeah. This is a 20-year lease too, Bob, right, if I recall?
I
Reading?
believe it's a 50-year lease,
Was this? Okay.
based on special legislation passed in 32296, I believe.
Elementary and middle, it's page 3, section 3B, it says each lease shall be for a term of at least 20 years.
20 years.
At least 20 years.
least
So
20.
I don't know if it automatically renews
That's where I
unless
was
somebody
getting
opts
from.
out, or.
Yeah. Okay, so Mary, can we make sure that we put this obviously on the agenda for next Monday? 7 PM, so we don't miss out on this. And are there any further questions on the contract at all? Any other ones? Those are the three that I have. I think I'm good, Bob. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
I think we're good, and I don't see the FinCom board.
I'll go up and get
But
them.
I'm sorry, Chairman,
I'm sorry.
I made the suggestion that we vote on it at the next meeting, but that's just one person's opinion.
Well,
So I
I-
don't know if other people agreed or not.
We also have a pending legal with it too, so are you guys okay with voting for it on next May? Does anybody object? Next May 7th at 7 PM.
Next
Should be
meeting.
done
May
prior to
7th,
town
next
meeting.
Monday, forget
Yeah.
it. Yeah. I figured that with this group, if there was an objection, we would have heard it by now.
Well, I just
okay?
didn't want to be rude and
So,
assume
no,
that.
that's cool, I get it.
Jim, would you like me to, this is going to be before town meeting, would you like me to come in case you have any questions further?
Please, that
questions?
would be terrific.
Not a problem, what time?
7 is
7
the,
o'clock.
yeah,
4 o'clock.
7 is the selectmen's meeting, Bob, you're welcome to come.
Bring your crib notes.
30 minutes before the town meeting.
Okay,
And
thanks.
just on a side note, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much
Yeah.
for appointing me to be part of this. It was very enlightening with verbiage and language changes.
It's a growth experience.
The good news is we won't have to update it again for 30 years.
I'll be long gone.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
that statement Mr. Hickey made may have put him for some further,
For the contract reviews, absolutely. That'll be up to the next
we'd
chair.
love to have him.
Absolutely.
We'd love to have him.
There was one issue I did have on page 9, just double check the word effect versus effect. All right, that was a joke, bad one, I'm sorry. All right, so we've got FinCom with us here tonight. We should mark this complete, right? All right,
I'm just gonna go grab Beth. Beth wants to do.
go ahead. Do you
Before
want to
we
get
get
Beth?
started.
We can move to the discussion to the relative evaluation process. You want to do that, guys? Or is that going to be a 30-minute session?
No, that's not gonna be that one.
Okay, why don't we move directly to the discussion relative to the evaluation process? So Laura, you want to start with this? I think you made some great points last time, or no? Okay, I'll move to
Can you recap what I said?
I do.
know.
I think it was a good point. Basically, that we should have a formal process
Yes, okay.
in place for all department heads, and including, we have something already in place for our town administrator when we give
Yeah.
him an evaluation. So we felt that the same should be done, obviously, for the department heads when they come up in front of us
Yeah,
for contract changes, you know what I'm saying, or anything of that nature. If they're trying to extend their contract, they should usually typically come up in front of us with a list of accomplishments. Makes sense? Maybe a list of goals, right? Those are the common things. I don't know
yeah,
if the-
well, I just felt like, going forward, coming from the corporate world, it's a lot more formalized process in terms of reviews and timing and input that you're seeking, and for it's just been a little too casual for my liking, and I'd like to put something a little more formal in place. And so, like you said, I would suggest that on a go-forward basis, we come up with a calendar of when people are going to be reviewed in accordance with their contract, and that we ask them to come prepared with a robust list of accomplishments, and, you know, the degree to which they've met goals that we've provided them with. And then that we have got some kind of a rubric or a matrix where we're each independently evaluating performance. And, of course, we can't talk about that until we all get together, so we wouldn't be comparing notes with one another. But I think, you know, it's important that we all give feedback, because my interaction with somebody may be different than somebody else's interaction. You know, for instance, like Kenny is interacting a lot more with, say, Bob Brown and his guys because he's on the highway committee, so I would value his input on that, versus I really haven't had a ton of, you know, interaction. So I think, you know, we just all benefit from hearing what the other ones have got to say about performance. And I'd just like it to see it be a little more formalized.
Well, why don't I suggest this, and it's sort of born out of the last conversation, but since it really wasn't on the agenda, we didn't discuss it. Would the board like me, with those suggestions and any other suggestions, either tonight or you know, in the next couple of weeks or so, put together a formal policy, and the board can review that policy and vote that policy in effect? And you know, again, we can work on that over the course of the next couple of weeks. I think the real actual next selectmen's meeting will be the new board on I believe, the 21st or 22nd. So, and that, it's probably not the best time to, since we potentially have 2 new people, to have a vote on that, but I can provide it to people, and, you know, they can consider it, and then maybe in an ensuing meeting, we can come up with a formal vote, so people have a time to digest it. Again, potentially 2 new people, and obviously we would value their input as well and their feedback. So, but, you know, as Laura always gets to, and I don't disagree with it, to put together a timeline, to put together deadlines, to put together milestones. And so that would be what I would suggest. We'll put something together. We'll have it, you know, in a draft form for the new board to look at on the 22nd. And then, you know, at that time, we can have it, or the board can have a discussion about a formal vote the next meeting or the meeting after that, but so that, again, we're not kind of just floating out there that, oh, we'll get to it, and, you know, we know how that goes, so.
I think that's a good idea.
I mean, I don't know how other people feel, but, you know.
No, I think it's a good idea to have a policy in place too, that way you can go forward. And, are you a human resources person?
No, but I've done a lot of reviews in
In your career?
Yes, a lot of reviews. And, you know, I know some people think that, oh, it's just a bunch of baloney, just check off the boxes. But, you know, I really think for a person's development, if you really care about somebody and their development, and you want to see them improve, then you're going to be open and honest about look, we're all human. We all have things we have to work on, all of us. I have an abundance of them. You know, it's a good way to kind of open up a dialogue, talk about personal growth, talk about goals with people, where they want to be, talk about succession planning, which is something that I've been really digging into since I got elected. Is like, what are our succession plans here? Because we've got an aging population, and I don't want to be left without some talented people. We've got a ton of, you know, talented people, but everybody's aging. You know, they're like,
Yeah.
you know, I mean that in the nicest way possible. Don't take that personally.
I object.
Yeah, I object.
Well, she's right, we're all getting older, right? It's a
It's a
fact of life. There you go.
So anyway, thanks for letting me mention that.
I think it's important, and I do think it's something that, it sets a standard and it's consistent across everybody's benefit, I think. You know, I don't think it's gonna be extra work. Obviously, if you were, many of the people were probably already doing some of this, so. Any comments? Any questions?
No, only that I agree with Laura totally, except for that age thing. But when Laura and I...
I'm not saying anything.
No, Donnie, I was looking right at you. When Laura and I became selectmen, one of the first things we did within the first 2 months was evaluation on Mike. Now, we've only, and I can only speak for me, but I'd only been sitting in this seat for 2 months, so I don't think I could really put any insight into any kind of evaluation. So I think as part of that process, obviously, we're going to have at least one new member, that 6 months down the road would be a good time to do an evaluation, just say on Mike.
Yeah.
Well, and Mike does the department heads,
Right.
which maybe we should get more involved in, but that's just one instance that should definitely be on this.
Well,
you know,
that's
thing
another
we're
thing that I
gonna
would
work.
really love to see. I don't know about us necessarily doing the reviews, but one of the things we do where I work, which I really have come to enjoy quite a bit, is we ask everybody that works with the person, give us feedback. So for instance, if we were talking about Mike, we'd ask the department heads, give us feedback, and it can be anonymous, you know, because, so you're really collecting like a 360 kind of a picture of somebody's performance. And again, this isn't to nail anybody or get rid of anybody. It's to try to help people develop and give them a good, clear picture of their developmental needs.
Speaking of which, Mike sent out an email to this board on April 20th on an evaluation for himself, so keep that in mind when you're,
And I think along those lines, and I had actually looked at it, and, you know, when we had the discussion about my contract extension, I really didn't want to get into any changes, any substantial changes. It's just, and I, again, appreciate the additional years that you've given me. But one of the things that I was thinking of asking is changing the timeline for my evaluation, kind of in line with what Jim Hickey just said. Technically, my review is in May, which is very problematic.
Yeah.
So I think, if I recall, my thought at the time was to change that within my contract to say, like January. So, I mean, at a minimum, any new selectman would have about 6 months with me. So there wouldn't be that sort of, I don't know,
Here you go,
lapse in terms of, you know, somebody coming on and having a month or two with me. At a minimum, everyone will have at least 6 months with me. So again, I may bring that up. I think it's a minor thing to change within my contract. But, you know, perhaps we'll bring that before the next board, when the next board sits.
I think that's a good idea, Mike.
Sounds good.
All right, is there anything further on this? No? I think we've covered a lot in a short amount of time, so the next item I think we're gonna do, so we're gonna combine the two items. We're going to do a town meeting preview, and I think we have everybody here, Beth is here, good, all right, and FinCom is here, all right. Now, are we waiting for anybody else, Mary, that we can think of?
No, I don't see Sean. The moderator
Yeah,
is
that's
usually
right,
here,
Sean.
but I do not see him.
Anybody know what happened to Sean? We gave him a heads up, right?
Yes, I did.
Like Sean not to be there, so, all right, why don't we move right to the articles then, okay? We're going to conduct a town meeting preview. This is under new business, item 1C. So, the first item I have on our list, and you guys should have in your three-ring
So
binders,
for the board members, each member has
something to
an
read.
article on each page. The yellow sheets are your motion. If you have a yellow sheet when you turn the page, it's your turn to read it. And then when we get into the annual, it will be a blue sheet.
Gotcha. We don't
Start with
have
Jim.
enough room
Oh,
here.
and just so the board is aware, I'll be reading the articles for the Water Commission.
You'll be reading the articles for what, Mike?
The Water Commission.
Water Commission.
Because I don't see Bill Garvey here.
Yeah, Bill Carvey hasn't made it, so I'll just read through those.
Okay, so, shall I start with Article 1? Want me to read over it, or no? We're passing over on this one, isn't that true?
Right, so Jim would read that. That will be his. We'll start
Jim
with Jim
Hickey,
Hickey.
you got it?
Yep.
I'm sorry, Jim.
I move to pass over.
Good job.
Next.
Okay, so we can make a recommendation on that, because we'd had it hang out there. We had it on hold, but we never received any old bills. So if you want to make a motion to
Do you
So
want
I
to
would
read?
pass over.
Oh,
I would entertain a motion to pass over Article 1
so moved.
on the special town meeting warrant.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. 5-0 recommended, Mary.
Okay.
Now, Mary, these other ones, they're not recommended either, that are blank on the sheet, is that correct?
Right, so the next one we can recommend.
We're gonna, so the ones where they're blank, we should move to recommend on these ones as well.
Correct.
All right, gotcha, I'm with
Can
you.
we do it as we get to them?
Yeah, so who's
Okay.
next on Article 2?
I move the town will vote to transfer from available funds a sum of money to supplement appropriations previously voted at annual town meeting of May 2017 for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2017, for various departments as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Okay.
So these numbers have been updated and finalized. We're gonna be transferring $15,000 for the item one,
Please.
legal line. We're gonna transfer $15,000 from the Norfolk Aggie tuition. Item two, $15,000 from risk management. Item three, $170,000 for snow and ice from free cash. And item four, $5,000 from unemployment, from the veterans agent to the unemployment expense line.
Okay.
So those are all good numbers if you want to make a recommendation on that.
All right, I'd like to make a recommendation for Article 2 to recommend.
Second.
Made and seconded. So those numbers that you read, Mary, were the adjustments to the fiscal 18 budget. And you
Correct.
provided the funding source and the department that's impacted. Excellent.
Right.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded, correct?
Correct.
All right, all those in favor to recommend Article 2, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0 on Article 2. Article 3, who's up?
Did already. They'll give me their stuff later.
Police chief.
Police?
Chief's gonna do it.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mike, I was looking at where it says Board of Selectmen, I apologize.
Lieutenant Casey will be doing this. I move to see if the town will vote to transfer a sum of $50,000 from free cash for the purchase of new analog/digital radio dispatch consoles for the police department, or take any action in relation thereto.
Second.
Yeah, we don't need to.
We already voted on this one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And we did recommend this one, correct? So we're good to go. Thank you, Mike.
Nothing else.
Are there any questions on this one? Moving on to the next Article 4. This is proposed by Police Chief Mix. Is this also going to be Lieutenant Casey?
Again, this will be Lieutenant Casey. I move to see if the town will vote to transfer a sum of $20,000 from free cash to purchase new ballistic vests for the police department, or take any other action in relation thereto.
All right. Any questions on this? Article 5 is me. I move the town vote to transfer $30,000 from free cash for the grading of private ways under the direction of the highway. Explanation is these funds are used to purchase materials for contracting a contractor with grading for private ways which the town maintains.
Did you say 30,000?
It says 30,000.
No, you know what, I
That's a
think you
transfer.
skipped the line
Yeah.
down, you skipped down.
Where?
Oh, I may have screwed up your
It says
your
10 in the
motion.
matrix.
My
Yeah,
motion-
it
my
does say
motion-
30 on there.
My motion says 30.
Oh,
I think
Should
Bob
say
wouldn't
10.
mind 30.
Nope, the author skipped down a line. You can change that to 10. That's why we do this.
What do you mean? Well, the explanation says 10.
no, Mary's saying that was
I
her
typed your motion wrong.
blunder. She typed it
Okay.
up wrong, it should be 10K.
I thought I was the
I'm
author,
sorry.
sorry. I
No,
understand what you're saying. Okay, gotcha. So it should say, I'm gonna reread it, okay? Okay, do-over. Article 5, I move the town vote to transfer $10,000 from free cash for the grading of private ways under the direction of the highway. And I've already read the explanation, so we should be good. Sure you don't want the extra 20, right, Bob? You good?
What's that?
You sure you don't want the extra 20,000, right? That was a joke, a bad one, I'm sorry. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, who's next? Proposed by the Board of Selectmen, Article 6, so this is elder affairs. Mary?
Yes, our chairperson, Linda Philbrook, will be presenting this, as I'm out of town, so. I move the vote to transfer $30,000 from free cash for the purpose of replacing existing flooring in the senior center and adjoining community room. And the explanation is existing vinyl flooring is original to the building, which was built in 1991. The 27-year-old flooring has reached the end of its life and detracts from the beauty of the building.
Excellent. Hopefully it's some nice hardwood there or something, right? Article 7, this is proposed by the Historical Commission. Do we have somebody here from that team?
I have Patty Norton signed up for that, but you can do that.
You want me to read it? I'll read it.
Yeah, okay.
Article 7, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds a sum of money to be added to the amounts appropriated in Article 31 of the October 2017 special town meeting to replace and install the water wheel at the Thomas Mill Wheel, or take any action in relation thereto. And the explanation is the October special town meeting approved $9,000 to repair the Thomas Mill water wheel. However, the repair of the wooden wheel is not feasible and will need to be rebuilt and replaced. In addition, the October request for funds did not include the installation. The water wheel will be replaced and installed once the above requested funds have been appropriated. The estimated amount is $15,000. So what we're doing is, this amount is for $15,000 because back in October 2017, $9,000 was already approved.
Right, and it's
Okay.
not gonna do the job.
Right.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
in your motion, if I heard you correctly, you said a sum of money, and you may not have the motion.
Yeah, he doesn't
He doesn't have the
Yeah.
motion.
I don't have it.
Okay.
You have the motion.
I have the motion,
You do
okay. It's $15,000.
It is 15.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we should, you're right, we should change that sum of money to 15,000. That's
Yeah,
your
but the
point.
motion will say that, you don't have the motion.
But you don't have the
Yeah,
motion.
yeah, I got you.
Sorry.
Nope, that's okay, it's a good point though, Kate. Thank you. Next, we have Bob Hayes.
Bob Hayes.
Bob
I move
Hayes.
the town vote to transfer $30,000 from the amount appropriated in Article 34 of the October 2014 special town meeting, $15,000 from the amount appropriated in Article 10A of the October 2015 special town meeting, and $5,000 from the amount appropriated in the Article 11 of May 2016 annual town meeting for repairs at Indian Head Elementary and Hanson Middle. Explanation. Indian Head and Hanson Middle School replacement of deteriorating exterior doors and card access, estimated $25,000. Indian Head replacement of acoustic tiles in the gym, which are stained and very poor and need to be replaced, $25,000. Total estimated $50,000.
All right. Thank you, Bob.
Article 9.
Article
I move the town vote to transfer $35,000 from the amounts appropriated in Article 11 of the May 2016 annual town meeting to reimburse the Northampton Regional School District for the removal of asbestos and retile in rooms 100 and 101 to remove and replace the walls at the Indian Head of Elementary Schools.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay, next we have Article 10, the Recreation Commission.
Diane.
Diane.
I move the town vote to transfer $25,000 from the Recreation Enterprise retained earnings, a sum of money to supplement the amounts appropriated in Article 11, Item 8 of the May 2016 annual town meeting to replace the septic system at Camp Kawani.
Please.
Additional unexpected plumbing work was identified during the course of the Camp Kawani septic project. Funding will allow the completion of the project, estimated $25,000.
Thank you. Article 11, also.
I do 11 and 12 too.
Thank you.
Okay. I move the town to vote to transfer $23,000 from the Recreation Enterprise retained earnings to establish a Wi-Fi capabilities throughout the camp via Comcast underground and aerial connections. This is the first step in establishing a pay-as-you-go online payment option at the Cove and Lodge area to attain the goal of a no-cash policy throughout the camp.
Perfect. Article 11, perfect. So the next one, did you say Article 12, Diane? You're doing also?
Yeah, she's on
Please?
CPC.
Okay.
I move the town vote to transfer $50,000 of money from the amounts appropriated in Article 15 of the May 2015 annual town meeting, repairs to the North End cabins, and $30,000 from the Community Preservation undesignated fund balance for replacement of the docks at Cranberry Cove. The explanation, this article seeks to reallocate previously approved excess CPC funding for Camp Kawani North End cabin repair, as well as additional CPC funding. All combined funds would remain dedicated to Camp Kawani improvements, namely replacement of the docks at Cranberry Cove.
I don't know if you got the feedback from our meeting, but in the future, for the CPC, would like to see you clear out an old article and ask for the full funding from the new. I know you guys are like moving it from one bucket to the next, and it's totally permissible.
Right.
But just for transparency to the voters,
Okay?
you know, we would like to see it more clearly just taken from this bucket and have you close out with Todd for the other, you know, the one that was the North End cabins.
So close it out, return all of it, and then...
Then do a new article for the full 80K just from the CPC, not the kind of like moving it from one to the other kind of thing. Okay.
There's less explanation, Diane, if you have to. You'll save yourself on the explanation, I think, you know?
Yeah.
Well, maybe questions at town meeting, so.
Less reading in public.
Yeah, yeah.
There you go.
Okay, so we're moving on to Article 13.
That's me. I move the town vote to amend the wage and personnel bylaws, Article 2-12, classification and compensation by deleting sections 11A through 11E in its entirety and inserting the new sections 11A through 11E as printed in the warrant.
And
The
again,
changes to the compensation plan are highlighted, which include increasing the top of the range of the assistant to the police chief, section 11B-B, from $28 to $32, increasing the top of the range for student police officers, section 11B-BB, from $30 to $35, and adding a new position, DD, for part-time police officers / special police officers.
thank you. And Article 14.
I move the town vote to amend its general bylaws, Article 2-12, classification and compensation, Section 12B, eligibility for benefits by adding a new Section C as printed in the warrant.
Can we vote?
Explanation, this
Explanation?
article seeks to set the health insurance contribution ratio between town and employees under the personal bylaw and balance with recently bargained ratios for police, fire, clerical, dispatch, and highway unions.
Thank you, Jim. And Article 15.
I'll read that for the Water Department. I move the town vote to rescind the borrowing authority for $500,000, which constitutes the balance that is not going to be borrowed for the water tank rehabilitation, Article 20 of the May 4th, 2015 annual town meeting. It's pretty self-explanatory. It requires a two-thirds vote.
Okay. And who will be doing the reading?
Bill Garvey will.
Bill
Garvey?
Garvey, yeah.
Article 16, I move the town vote to rescind the borrowing authority for $700,000, which constitutes the balance that is not going to be borrowed, the demolition of the Plymouth County Hospital. Article 6 of the October 3rd, 2016, October special town meeting, or take any other action in relation to. This requires a two-thirds
Yeah.
vote. It doesn't make sense when it says is not going
We'll
to
get
be
an extra
borrowed.
October. I'll fix that and get
Okay.
a new one.
Cool.
Okay, terrific. So, that concludes the special town meeting warrants that we have. There will be a total of 16 of them. Are there any questions? Now we move on to the annual. Okay. Moving on to annual, blue sheets, guys. Okay, who has Article 1?
I do.
Started this end of the table.
Go. Oh, go?
Ah,
Yeah, I
well,
started this
all
end of
right.
the table, that's why you're first.
I move the town vote to hear reports of various town offices, committees, special committees, and act thereon. Explanation, the reports voted on are those published in the 2017 town report.
Article 2, I move the town vote to authorize the treasurer collector to enter into compensating balance agreements during fiscal 2019 as permitted by Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F. Every year this article is voted. It simply allows the treasurer collector to maintain accounts using credits instead of money to pay for banking charges.
Thank you, Kenny. Article 3, I move the town vote to transfer $20,000 from overlay surplus for the treasurer collector's tax title account. Explanation is this money will be used to cover the costs incurred for filing and advertising properties with delinquent taxes and also to pay any legal fees resulting from this process. That takes care of Article 3. Moving on to Article 4.
Article 4, I move the town vote to fix the salary and compensation of all paid elected officers of the town as printed in the warrant. And by way of an explanation, this article sets the salary limits for the elected officials. Article 5 funds the salaries.
Okay.
Article 5, to determine what sums of money the town will raise and appropriate by taxation, transfer from free cash, transfer from town ambulance funds, water department revenue, water surplus, Title V, special revenue fund, MWPAT loan repayment receipt reserved for appropriation, conservation notice of intent fund, overlay surplus, and the balance, fund balance reserved for reduction of future excluded debt to defray charges and expenses of the town, including debt and interest, and to provide for a reserve fund for the 2019 fiscal year or take any other action in relation thereto.
What's that?
You're right, I gotta pull that too.
That's Article 5, probably is the one that
Hold on.
John will hold and take idle by idle.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
Hold on, what?
They're just gonna change some verbiage on the end before town meeting.
What, on your motion?
Yeah, in the very last one.
Yeah.
So what's gonna change, Mary? Can I just ask you a quick summary? What's gonna change on this? The motion?
I just have to take something off. I'll fix this motion. What I'm gonna do is grab your books after this is over, make
And
all the
reinsert all
changes,
the
so everything
changes?
will be cleaned up on
All
Monday.
right, gotcha, okay. Okay, and of course, as Donnie said, this is where Sean will read line by line the operating budget, and it'll be approved, or he'll place on hold. Now, we didn't recommend this, Mary. Are we to vote to recommend this? It's on hold, so.
Right, we should vote to recommend it. We can go through it real quick and see if FinCom made any changes to the budget. I think everything
Mike, was anything changed that you can?
No, our only comment was, in our meeting prior, was getting final detail in regards to the police budget, specifically with the chief's salary line item. And that detail came out earlier today. We had reopened that in a prior meeting, waiting for that detail, reviewed and discussed, and while we did have some other discussions and concerns, we did recommend approval of that budget line item, which in turn provided an overall recommendation for the full budget. So we are closed out and recommended.
Okay, great. So I would entertain a motion to recommend Article 5, the budget for the May 2018 annual town meeting.
Second.
Nance?
Mr. Chairman, before you vote, I think it's important for me to point out that the most significant change in the budget, and the FinCom did support this at its previous meeting, is the 9.5% increase, total increase for the school budget, which reflects a little around, I believe, just short of an 8% increase for us, which again, we worked in cooperation with the school committee to come up with a number that both parties could live with. It is a number that we don't, or it's a process we feel is probably unsustainable going forward into 20, but as been mentioned at this meeting and at school committee meetings, that we are going to start first thing fiscal year 19, talking about how we go forward with the preceding year. So you will be, in effect, when you vote to support this particular article, you will be also supporting that particular amendment or that particular adjustment for the school budget.
Thank you, Mike. And that's on page 3 under the education section, okay. Okay, so we have a motion that has been made and seconded to recommend Article 5 for the annual town meeting, May 2018. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
One abstaining?
One abstention?
Yep.
You are, Laura?
Yep.
So it's 4-0-1. Okay. Article 6. This is the Recreation Commission, Diane.
I move the town vote to raise and appropriate the following sums of money to operate the recreation department during fiscal year 2019, under the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F, as printed in the warrant. You want me to read all the expenses?
No.
Just the explanation. Is this the explanation, Diane?
I'm sorry?
Just the explanation real quick?
Recreation program costs now shown in this enterprise fund budget. With the exception of the administrative assistant position, all costs related to the operation of Camp Hawaiian are projected to be offset by the program revenues. All surpluses of this account at the end of the year will remain within the account.
Thank you.
That needs to be changed. Wow, because we don't have anything in taxation anymore.
No.
So we have to take the yeah.
Yeah, the explanation needs to change.
So this
That's
needs
probably
to
from
change.
last year, yeah.
It's a good thing you read it, see? That's why we do this draft.
That's right,
Good catch.
exactly.
Yep.
Just for the record, a year or so ago, we fully were able to transfer over the cost of the assistant up at the camp fully to the revenues from the camp, so the camp is fully self-sufficient right now. It was a process where, we gradually got to that point, so the camp wasn't, exposed in terms of its revenues, so the camp is fully self-sufficient.
Okay. All right, are there any other questions on Article 6?
No, that's incredible progress.
Article 7, Board of Health? Arlene? Hey,
I move the town will vote to raise and appropriate the following sums of money to operate the transfer station during fiscal year 2019 under the provisions of NGL, Chapter 44, Section 53F and half, as printed in the warrant.
thank you. Just the explanation, Ellen?
The explanation is this, the amount that we're asking for offsets what we take in. The total cost of operating the transfer station is $331,706. The portion of the salaries and indirect costs, $27,705, come from general taxation.
Thank you. And the balance of expenses, $245,000, will be paid to the enterprise fund, right?
Yes.
Any questions on Article 7? Article 8, CPC.
Diane just left.
She just left.
I don't know if she realized she had one more article.
Okay.
No, we'll have Patty Norton scheduled to do it, so Mike will.
So I'll read it. I move the town vote to appropriate or reserve from fiscal year 2019 Community Preservation Fund estimated annual revenues in the amounts recommended by the committee, the Community Preservation Committee for committee expenses, community preservation projects, and other expenses in fiscal year 2019, with each item to be considered as separate appropriation as printed in the warrant. The explanation. This article ensures that Hanson's community preservation accounts are compliant with the Preservation Act, which requires that a certain portion of CPA funds be set aside for open space projects, community housing projects, historical projects, and recreational projects. In addition, it sets aside money for the administrative expenses of the Community Preservation Committee.
Thank you, Mike. Are there any questions on Article 8? Moving on, Article 9. This is proposed by the Capital Improvement Commission and the Board of Selectmen.
I can read this one as well. I move that the town adopt the capital improvement program as presented by the Capital Improvement Committee. Explanation, this is the annual article which approves the capital improvement matrix for the next fiscal year.
Who will be reading that, Mike?
John Norton will be. Yep, the chairman.
Has that been circulated? FinCom has not received it.
No, nor have we. So we don't have a recommendation on that
No.
yet.
Can we,
So
I
we
just checked
request
my
that,
emails to see if it was in there as well.
we'll request that the board move on a recommendation on the 7th when you meet quickly before the meeting.
okay. So, please send John a reminder email tomorrow. Mike? would you-
Yes.
Thank you.
Actually, it's, there's someone else on the committee with whom I've been discussing this.
Okay.
Would it be possible for us to get that, like ASAP, not
That's-
just on Monday
that's
before the
been-
town
Well,
meeting?
that's been the request. It's been the ongoing request, and will continue to be the request.
Okay, great.
Okay, moving on. Off of Article 9, on to Article 10.
I move that the town vote to the, right, I move that the town vote
Okay, we'll fix that, to
yeah,
transfer.
to transfer $574,000 in free cash to various department capital accounts for the following items as printed in the warrant. That's a rather lengthy explanation, but I will read it. Item 1, a generator is needed at Town Hall to provide continued power to the computer network, which allows for undisrupted communications between administrator and public safety personnel. Item 2, fire department floor rehabilitation. Item 3, highway utility truck. Item 4, to replace and install playground to meet the current safety standards, to meet the enrollment standards, and to meet the ADA requirements. Item 5, to increase security at the front entrance, install card access to interior front interior front entrance doors, move interior doors and walls, install new ceilings, counter and reconfigure office area with a security window to ensure safety for all staff and students. I should mention that those two articles, the Article 4 and Article 5, have to do with the schools, as well as Article 6, which is to replace siding, remove lead paint, replace interior trim, repair columns, new lighting, repair front stairwell and platforms, repaint facade, and that's at the Indian Head School. Actually, all three of those are at the Indian Head.
And these are line items within Article 10.
Yes.
Okay.
Just for clarification, all items from funding source, items 1 through 6, will be funded through free cash, even though there's a comment for taxation in here?
That's correct. Free cash.
Okay, so
Is it coming?
all of these are free cash. So items, right now, in what I'm looking at in the warrant is line 3 says taxation, free cash transfer, and line 6 says taxation, free cash transfer. It should just be free cash by
Yes.
itself? Gotcha.
Mr. Chair,
Where does
just a
that say
question.
that?
It says free, he
Oh.
must be.
Just a question about that, because
It's in the warrant. Oh.
we heard, I just want a clarification.
It will be moved as free cash.
Okay,
Yes.
just because the, Todd told us differently, we ought to clarify that. Okay, thank you.
The changes were made, oh yeah, okay, I'll fix those in the warrant. Those changes were made once we found out what the school budget was gonna be. We thought at the time some would have to be taxation, but now that we know what the percentage is,
Oh, because of the 9, yeah, okay, from the 11 to 9.5, I'm with you. So we had actually put this on hold. We should recommend, isn't that correct?
right.
So I would entertain a motion to recommend Article 10.
So second,
This is from the annual town meeting. Moved and seconded. Any further questions? Great job. I'm glad to see the playground getting on this. I know that was a big bullet item, too, in addition, of course, to the security access. But
Get everything ready for.
yeah, for the new year, right, and the new grades. All right, motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor of recommending Article 10, say aye.
aye.
5-0 on recommending. So, just for clarification for the public out there, Article 9 we held, we're still holding, because again, we haven't seen the matrix, right? Okay. Moving on to Article 11.
And I will read that. I move that the town vote to transfer $24,108 from free cash to capital accounts for the following Whitman-Hanson Regional High School to update interior and exterior cameras. Security cameras at the high school are 13 years old and are failing. All existing cameras will be replaced and new cameras added to new locations.
That's terrific.
Second. Oh, did we already move that one?
Yeah,
Never
we
mind.
already voted to recommend.
11.
That's Article 11.
No, oh yeah, I'm looking, we don't have a FinCom recommendation.
We just recommended Article 10. You good, Beth? Yep. All right, moving on to Article.
Jim, that actually begs a question. Mike and Joe and other guys from FinCom, is there anything in here that you're not recommending? Will you chime in and let us know if there's something that's a difference?
Yeah.
Because we don't have the benefit of having your the
Well,
full.
we were going over these past two articles upstairs, and Article 11 only being one item was recommended. We looked at individual items in regards to 10, and 1 and 3 motions of a 3-to-1 vote were to not recommend them.
Okay.
Okay. Wait a minute, you're saying Article 1 and 3?
No.
No,
in-
item.
In
The
item
line.
1 and
Yeah, the line.
line 3 in Article 10.
Okay, I'm with you now.
Not to recommend.
So 1 and
Yes.
3. I wish we'd known that.
You're gonna send me this, right, Mike?
Yeah, well, if either send you, or I can give you my copy from
The
here.
generator and the utility truck.
And utility truck, it's not recommended.
And what, can
By
we get an
FinCom.
explanation from them on that? I'm just curious.
I think you can.
Can we
'cause
get an
practice
explanation
for-
on that, guys?
In regards to the generator, we had appropriated $34,000 from reserve fund to put in the new server, a duplicate server at the police station for basically the same explanation here. In addition to that, from the $75,000 for this generator, the other parts of this from a cost basis that was just discussed was concerns in regards to maintenance and any repairs and maintenance, and what part of the budget and/or costs would that also incur. When the reserve request first came through, our recommendation had been, well, what if we did this instead, i.e. a generator? The discussion was it would be 2 to 3 times more than that. This made more sense so that everybody is in communication. At this case, having already spent $35,000 and now to spend an additional $75,000 for computer servers, emails, and keeping everybody in connection, we didn't feel it was, given the state of the overall budget, it was an appropriate expense at this time.
Okay. Because I think that those of us who lived through the storms and everything.
No, I like to,
Yeah,
no, I like to say something. I probably was the one that started this. When the town hall loses power, it means everybody in the town hall goes home. Well, a lot of the people in the town are affiliated with the emergency things. And I think that the town hall building itself personally, I think should have power, especially if it's out for 2 or 3 days.
yeah.
Because the town has to run with the people that are working in here in the town hall. And if there's no power here, nobody's gonna get paid if it's closed for a week. It's a simple solution, and I think it's time that we kind of update some of the facilities that the town does have, so that we can operate in today's time and not years ago. I mean, it was good just to shut down and send people home. Nowadays, you can't do that.
So,
That's why I kind of recommended to put, I mean, being a chairman of the water department now, we've got everything in the water department underneath generator power. We've generated power for all our wells, all our buildings, and everything. So in case of emergency and we lose power, the town of Hanson is not going to lose their water. And that's one of the priorities, because water's number 2 on the list besides air. Air's first. All right? Thank you.
so one of the differences I heard between the explanations is you guys knew that this was a generator for the town, right? Lights and, or did you think it was just for the servers, Mike? Did you say?
No, that it would be for the building, but
Entire
I also
building.
recognize that, in a snowstorm, the rainstorms, where you're near hurricane and it's knocked the power out, we also had a discussion of, from a pure public safety standpoint, is there an expectation that you would expect the employees to still stay here if the generator is supporting power? From a public safety perspective, bulk of department heads are communicating by cell phone, which would still be working, be able to access email through cell
I
phones.
think the day of the storm is not the question. I think it's
Yeah.
the aftermath.
Exactly.
If we're without electricity for a week and we got to close town hall for a week, which is the, you know what I'm saying? So that's what Donnie is saying, I think. That's okay.
It sounds like they knew what they
Yeah,
were
yeah.
discussing, so.
What about, did you want on the highway truck or no? We're good with that, too.
Yeah, the highway truck, you guys voted no on that,
Did-
to recommend, not to recommend?
You want to take that one?
I mean, it's good practice now, because they'll probably question you at town meeting.
I mean, that's fine, when we took an
It's up to you.
overall look at our fiscal responsibility, we didn't see $125,000 fitting in there for a highway truck, because we have outstanding services, and an argument, a clear-cut argument as to why we needed it wasn't presented. So it wasn't that the remainder of our equipment's on its last legs, we're going out, there was not for that amount of money, a good enough argument wasn't made, in the opinion of the board, to justify the $125K. It was sort of we need $125K for a truck.
Okay,
Well,
so
why?
you didn't hear a
Is this-
compelling reason.
Exactly, it wasn't a compelling reason, and as part of our fiduciary responsibility to the town, we looked at it and said, this really might not be the time to do it. Maybe we wait down the road next time around. So that's where we were.
Okay.
Was it unanimous, or was it close?
No, it was a 3-to-1.
3-to-1.
3 to 1, okay.
As was the generator, was 3 to 1.
All right.
All other, just to clarify, all other line items were a recommendation by a vote of 4-0.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, moving on. Unless any further comments or questions. Article 11, capital improvement. Mike, is this you?
Did we do that?
I just read that.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we
did
just,
Article
we jumped,
one.
yeah, we just jumped
Forgive me,
back.
that's right, we jumped backwards, forgive me. Yep, and that amount was for $24,108, right? The security cameras. Article 12, proposed by the fire chief.
I move the town vote to raise through borrowing $600,000 to purchase and equip a new fire engine, and that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the selectmen, is authorized to borrow said amount under the pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 7, subsection 1 of the general laws, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the town. Explanation. These funds are requested to purchase and equip a new fire engine to replace a 1986 Maxim pumper with a pumper that has more water and pump capacity. And I'm sure the moderator will point out it requires 2/3 vote.
Article 13, Bob Hayes.
I move the town vote to approve $500,000 borrowing authorized by the Whitman Hanson Regional School District. Pay costs of designing and carrying out HVAC improvements at the Hanson Middle School, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto. Explanation. The project scope consists of providing high-efficiency variable flow refrigerant flow VRF, heat pumps, air conditioning system for the second floor classrooms and learning spaces at the Hanson Middle School, located at 111 Liberty Street, Hanson. The middle school is constructed in '98 and is approximately 157,000 square feet and consists of 2 floors. The existing building classrooms are heated and ventilated through use of hot water classroom unit ventilator units and currently do not have air conditioning. As part of this project scope, indoor ductless wall-mounted or ceiling-mounted AC units shall be installed within the classroom and shall be piped with insulated refrigeration piping to outdoor grade or roof-mounted air-cooled heat pump condensing equipment. Multiple indoor units shall be connected to each outdoor condensing unit to maximize system sizing, efficiency, and diversity. A new direct digital control system shall be provided to control and monitor the VRF system. All newly installed systems shall be fully tested, adjusted, and commissioned.
Thank you. So we good on this? Any questions?
Yeah, quick question. So, Mr. Hayes, I know that middle school doesn't have air conditioning throughout. When they're done, will the whole building have air conditioning? Excellent, thank you.
This is going to be a part project as we move through it.
So is this one portion and then there'll be like future potential things?
Exactly.
Okay.
Excellent, thank you. Article 14, one of the selectmen here. Jim Hickey.
I move the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to accept and enter into a contract of expenditure of any allocated or to be allocated funds by the Commonwealth and/or a county persisted to the general bylaws C-90 as printed in the warrant. Explanation. This article is required of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for the town of Hanson to accept state funding, including Chapter 90 funding for accepted roadways. This article authorizes the use of funds which will be 100% reimbursed by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The budget approved each fiscal year by the legislator and the governor established the total funding available for Chapter 90 local transportation aid for that year. These funds are then appropriated to the 351 Massachusetts towns and cities.
All right, any questions on Article 14? There's no dollar value for this one. Moving on, Article 15, Conservation Commission. Matt.
I move the town vote to vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to replenish the conservation fund for open space management and related conservation purposes. Explanation. The task of implementing the open space and recreation plan is currently one of the more important responsibilities of the Conservation Commission. Some of the goals of the open space and recreation plan are to acquire land for conservation restrictions to permanently protect open space, provide a linked system of open space trails and greenways that are accessible to the public, improve public access such as the creation of parking spaces at open space parcels, and provide passive recreation information, which would include providing maps of public lands, installation of kiosks at open space parcels, and providing standardized signage for all existing municipal open space. Several of these important goals were accomplished in 2017, aided by the use of conservation funds. Current balance is $11,000.
Any questions for Matt?
Chair.
Oh, Mike?
Our discussion on this led to a 4-0 not to recommend, primarily on the basis of the funding source coming from taxation. Given that the ask of 5,000, there's a balance of 11,000 there. The ask is half of the existing balance. However, in looking at reconciliation of free cash, we would look to reopen that recommendation if this was funded from free cash.
I just want to clarify that $11,000 is in right now, but they do have a $7,000 expense for a project that they're working on, so that will be reduced down to 4.
Okay, then
That's the
should this explanation then be modified? Because then that, to me, is, we're looking at this, that there's $11,000 in there. You're asking for an annual of 5, so you've got twice as much there. That, from the explanation, became misleading.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should talk about the pending project if that's the case. And if you guys weren't aware of it, that would explain why.
They should just say the unencumbered amount is the other.
Well, it's not wrong, the current
Is the
balance is
7
this,
for
but the
Conway?
7.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. All right, thank you, Mike, for that. And moving on to Article 16.
A Water Commission article, which I will read. I move the town vote to transfer from water surplus $80,000 to purchase 2 new trucks for the water department. The department needs to replace 2 vehicles due to age and the condition of the 2 trucks. One has been surplus to the town for their use, and the other will be auctioned off. And the one in reference to the town use is now being used for the animal control officer, just as a little more explanation.
Mike, I think you're doing 17 as well?
Yep. I move the town transfer from water surplus $18,000 to purchase 2 storage containers for the water department. These 2 containers will be used to store the department's smaller equipment. These funds will also be used for concrete pads to put the containers on and to install overhead roofs.
And both 16 and 17 were recommended by FinCom, right? Okay, moving on.
I move the town transfer $40,000 from the water surplus to upgrade our SCADA panel at the well field. Explanation: the SCADA panel, which stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition System, which is located at the deep well in our VFD room, is outdated. The panel was installed back in 1984 when the well was put in and is no longer compatible with our new upgraded SCADA computer at the office.
Thank you, Mike. And this is recommended, so any questions to Article 18?
Article 19, I move to pass over.
I've spoken to the town accountant. He said we will not have any funds available for either 19 or 20. Recommends we pass over and address them in October after we have free cash established.
Okay.
So we can make a recommendation to pass over because we had held that due to funding.
19 and 20 will be both to pass over, right?
Right.
Would you say make a recommendation?
Yeah,
Make a
so
motion
I
to
vote
pass
we
over.
pass over Article 19.
Yep.
Make-
That's-
can
I've
you do
got
both?
I've got
19 and 20?
Mm-hmm, we could.
So you'll have an updated sheet.
Make a motion to, oh, I'm sorry, we'll update Laura's motion to pass over Article 19 and 20.
Second.
Maybe.
Made and seconded.
Made and seconded.
Yeah.
Right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
5-0.
Good.
Did you do both, 19 and 20 at the same
Yes.
time, right? Good.
Kill 2 birds with
Yep,
one
good,
stone.
good.
Article 21.
Okay, Article 21.
Depending on what the review is from the selectmen and town council, if you're not ready, I would suggest we probably move to pass it over.
This is
I'll read it
on-
anyway.
Yeah.
'cause
How's
I
that
assume-
gonna work, though, if we vote to pass over? Doesn't Whitman have it on their warrant for Monday
Whitman
night,
already
too?
has it on the warrant. I'm hoping that you're not going to, but I'm just saying that's a possibility
Okay.
with our earlier discussions.
I don't think that any action by Whitman in the positive would, it would affect us in terms of passing it over if the board is not prepared, and then to reconsider the new agreement in October. I don't really think
I
that.
agree with that in as much as if there's no changes after our review of it, But if you have Whitman adopting what's on the table that we've got here on Monday, and we review it and decide we need changes, and decide to kick the can up the road till October and make changes, now we're gonna be out of sync. So it does have potentially unintended consequences.
No, you're correct in that. But in terms of the timing, there isn't any consequences.
It would probably cause Whitman to re-vote it again in October.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have a,
Oh, they don't? No?
no.
They don't have an October meeting.
Well, you'll know before town meeting.
Yeah.
So,
We're gonna meet,
Yep.
as we said, we're gonna
Yep.
meet before, so I'll read it.
Yep.
I move the town vote approve the amended Whitman-Hanson Regional School District Regional Agreement, a draft copy of which is on file at the town clerk's office.
Thank you, Bob. And we're holding on that one until May 7th, 7 PM. Article 22.
I'll read that as the superintendent, Tom Hickey's not in attendance. He will move this at town meeting. I move the town vote to approve the amended South Shore Vocational Technical Regional High School Regional Agreement dated October the 31st, 2017, which is on file in the town clerk's office. And again, the explanation is kind of self-evident.
Okay, and both of it's been recommended. Article 23. Somebody have
yep,
this?
that's me.
Yeah.
I move the town vote to set the spending limits of the following revolving accounts in accordance with Hanson General Bylaw, Article 2-9, Section 3 is printed in the warrant. And this article sets the spending limits for the revolving annual, there seems to be a typo on this, I don't know, for the revolving annual accounts, maybe, it's supposed to say, which have been consolidated into one article to streamline the warrant process. So it's assessors, parks and fields, library, senior center fees, conservation commission, and Nathaniel Thomas Mill that are outlined there.
Was that intentional, Mary? Do we have the word
No,
revolving?
I'll fix that.
Okay. Okay, so, question on this one? Mike?
Just so you're aware, the blue sheet has a recommendation of a 5-0 vote. While we do recommend it, the vote was 3-2.
3-2?
And that discussion, just so the board is aware, is we'd like to explore, in talking with the town accountant in regards to several of these revolving funds where there's restricted asset use of funding, whereas expenses related to those assets are already fully funded in the budget, operating budget, and in effect, double funding some of these accounts. And we would like to explore a full review with department heads in the upcoming fiscal year and potentially look to eliminate some of these. Whereas the funds in the revolving account is basically being funded by the operating budget. While we acknowledge some with significant funding coming in and going out may be needed, we believe that there are some of these that would potentially, we would recommend to probably eliminate. The reason the vote was 3-2 was really a difference in timing of recommend to look to do that immediately versus have a discussion with department heads and town accountant and explore it on a more fuller basis.
All right, any questions on Article 23? So change on your blue sheets, 3-2 in the vote from FinCom. All right, Article 24. This is proposal.
I move the town to vote to amend its general bylaws, Articles 3-12, earth removal by adding in the title and bulk storage, and further amending by renumbering penalty as Section 6, and further amending by adding a new Section 5 entitled bulk storage as printed in the warrant. I got that one down, Mary, thank you. Explanation, this article seeks to regulate storage of material of excess amounts for the purpose of protecting citizens and properties adjacent proximity from the dust and other particles, odors, and other such nuisances. The Board of Selectmen would issue such licenses and impose conditions as it sees fit, such as tops or sealants.
Did the FinCom vote on this one, or no? You guys leave this one to town meeting?
No, 24 and
bulk
and
storage.
25. These were voted at our meeting last week with a recommendation of 4-0.
Okay, great. On both 24 and 25?
24 and 25, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Article 25, I move the town vote to amend its general bylaws, Article 4-1, enforcement, Article 3-12, earth removal by adding and bulk storage, and adding building inspector in the enforcement officer column. This is a housekeeping matter as it relates to the previous article relating to general bylaws, Article 3-12, which appoints a building inspector as the Board of Selectmen's enforcement officer.
Any questions on Article 25? Moving on. Article 26, Planning Board? Joe?
I move the town vote to amend the town of Hanson land use regulations zoning bylaw by revising how the minimum frontage requirements for each zoning district is calculated when there is frontage on 2 or more streets as printed in the warrant. Explanation, to reduce the minimum frontage requirements where a lot has frontage on 2 or more streets, it may use the frontage from any one of those streets to meet the minimum required lot frontage.
And this requires a 2/3 vote, right, Joe?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any questions on Article 26? Article-
Here's a motion from someone.
You guys gonna recommend it or?
No, we left it to town meeting.
Refer
Refer to town meeting.
Isn't that what it says?
It says it on our blue sheet. I don't know if it says it on this. Doesn't say it on the article, is that what you're looking at?
No, I'm looking at the
Warrant?
motion, I guess.
Okay, you're right.
Joe, Article 27.
All right, Article 27, I move the town vote to amend the town of Hanson zoning bylaws by amending Section 6 to add a new subsection M, marijuana establishments as allowable by special permit in the districts identified in Section 6-M4, and further to amend the table of contents as printed in the warrant. Explanation, to provide for the establishment of marijuana establishments, in appropriate places and under strict conditions, to minimize the adverse impacts of marijuana establishments on adjacent properties, residential neighborhoods, local historic districts, schools, and other places where children congregate, and to regulate the site and design, placement, security, safety, monitoring, modification, and removal of marijuana establishments.
May I make a recommendation? I know that that explanation is what's required. I would strongly suggest that you preface your explanation by saying, we are not opining on whether the town should have marijuana facilities or not have marijuana facilities. That vote has already been taken. We are simply trying to, and then go into your thing, because there's been a lot of hubbub, and I'm sure you're aware of it, about, we're taking steps with the hand that we've been dealt, which is that the town voted yes by a majority and voted no to a moratorium. Therefore, we need to control what we can, which is the placement of the retail marijuana, shops.
Yeah, so I'm fully prepared to talk about that if we need to put it in the explanation, but if...
I'm just saying preemptively, I'd knock it right out and get it just so that you're not having people getting up, because you can, it would be more productive to say that right up front, so people have a better understanding of what you've got control over and what you don't have control over.
We'll go back and we'll try to add that to it.
That's just my suggestion.
That's great, yeah.
You should probably talk to Sean too, right, before we do that.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
We'll move to-
Before we move on, though, it was brought up at the last meeting to try to have some chart or something kind of discussing or showing where it is.
Yeah.
This was done by land planning. I don't know if this is going to be sufficient for what you're looking for. We can modify it a couple different ways, but this is really what it looks like. It's kind of chopped up a little bit, but this is basically what we're looking at.
So
we can do it on an
this on
easel.
town meeting?
Can
Yeah.
you have that on a, like a, if need be, if people have questions, would you have the ability to put it up on?
Well, that's the thing, we wanted to run it by you before we actually made a decision on it, so we can either try to project it on the screen, but we know that once you drop the screen, everybody kind of has to move around, whatever's easier. We could print out 100 sheets just to ensure that we actually have a quorum, makes sense, but there's expenses with that, or we could throw this on an easel and try to get people as they're registering and coming into town meeting. It doesn't matter to me.
We've done the easels in the past, set them up the night.
We have that, I feel like, I think that if you describe it to people, what generally the area that you're talking about, and then maybe kind of have in reserve whether you're able to show it, like, talk to Sean and, have it, prepared, but I think people are gonna respond and understand it better if it's up on the screen versus the easel. Like, you're gonna need a decoder ring to figure out where,
Yeah.
Do both, but
Yeah.
Okay. We'll have a couple different ways of.
Yeah.
Okay. But is that good enough? That section, if we throw that up on there, just kind of talk about
It's
where
up
they
off
are?
of Franklin Street, right, Joe?
Yeah. Well, some of it's on that, most of it's on Main Street.
I mean, is it
Moving to
abundantly
Mattokeesit.
clear, like, what we're talking about? Like,
I think so. We can talk about landmarks when we're
Yeah.
talking about it, but it's really Main Street and moving towards Mattokeesit.
Okay,
So
yeah.
that's really what we're looking at.
And those are the sections that are allowed, correct? Or-
Yes.
Yes.
right? Okay.
Business districts.
I think that will go a long way towards helping people figure out.
Yeah, I figured this was the best place to talk about it because we want to make sure there's no confusion, so people know. All right?
Thank you, Jim.
You will. Article 28, you want to go to that?
Yes, sir.
All right, Article 28, I move the town vote to accept the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 64N, Section 3, to impose a 3% local sales tax on the sale or transfer of marijuana or marijuana products by a marijuana retailer operating within the town. Tried to get one, but didn't work.
And what, FinCom 4-1, do we know why somebody, I'm not trying to out anybody, I'm just wondering why somebody would vote against it. Are they just against having marijuana in the town and they didn't want to, do we know?
I think there were some personal preferences in
Okay.
regards to some personal beliefs in regards to
Okay.
one particular
We might not have
vote
anybody
against.
here who voted, who is
Yeah.
that?
Correct.
Vote too, so, yeah, I mean, Joe, did you read the explanation?
I did not. Explanation, it's a state-allowed tax on the sale of marijuana that will help the town raise additional revenue. Again, this is one of those things, if it gets passed and zoned, at least we can capture the maximum amount of taxes on that.
All right.
All right, Article 29. This one is gonna have to be amended on the floor. So do you want me to read you want me to read both? How do you want, we took a lot of what you had
Why don't you
said.
read what
about-
we have in front of us and then do the amendment, just like you
Okay.
would at town meeting.
Sounds good. So we'll do that. I am gonna say that, we'll get to that point. We took what you had to say at the last meeting and tried to clarify some of the confusion. There was also a discussion at our last planning board meeting about confusion as well. So we're probably we just figured it would be easier to just amend it on the floor.
Okay.
All right, Article 29, to see if the town will vote to amend the Town of Hanson Land Use Regulation Zoning Bylaw, Section 7, subsection L, personal wireless service facilities by inserting at the end of subsection 3 the following. Notwithstanding the above, cell towers may be placed on any municipal property in any zone as approved by town meeting, or take any other action in relation thereto. Explanation, this allows the town to place a cell tower on municipal property regardless of which zoning district the property is located. The town must meet all other regulations.
Requiring a two-third vote, right?
Yes, yep.
So what's your amendment, Joe?
So I'll just read it as amended, like I would on a town meeting. I move the town vote to amend the Town of Hanson Land Use Regulation Zoning Bylaw, Section 7, subsection L, personal wireless service facilities by inserting at the end of subsection 3 the following. Notwithstanding the above, cell towers may be placed on any municipal property in any zone. The site location will have to be approved by a two-thirds vote at town meeting. Installation of a cell tower on municipal land shall comply with the remaining requirements of Section 7L.
Excellent.
All right?
7L,
Which is the,
L6, all right? Kate, I have an email from Jay.
Yeah.
So they can do that without having to amend it, they can just flow
Just do the
that right
motion.
into the motion, correct?
Yeah, because your motions haven't been printed. It's so long as it's within the scope of the warrant, which this would be, and you're fine. So you can just move that as Joe read the second version, the amended version.
okay.
So
Yeah.
you can, that could be your motion, Joe, it doesn't have to be an amendment, when you just read your motion, that verbiage will be included in that.
As long as, would it make sense for me to explain that?
Yeah, will that verbiage be in here on the warrant? Will people look at
No,
it?
the people don't see the motions that we're actually making.
I see.
Okay, they see what's sitting there in front of them.
Yeah.
And so, Could I add that to the informational warrant?
Yeah.
I could add that additional language to the informational
Yeah.
warrant, so they would be reading what Joe is actually.
Yeah.
That would be a
as well.
big
prefer
As a
benefit.
motion.
Yeah, I prefer that, just for transparency. I don't want someone to be reading something and I'm saying something different.
Right.
There's a level of confusion would be too much, so.
Can I make a clarification? We talked about, Jay had talked about section L6, Mary.
Yeah.
But I thought we just put it to the whole section L, all the requirements, not just the dimensional requirements. I don't know what Kate's opinion is on that.
So what are the other requirements? I don't have it in front of me. Do you recall?
Do you want to see what, this is just the email that I got from Jay.
I know, I mean, to make it consistent with the dimensional requirements is fine. Are there special permit requirements? What are the other
That site plan
requirements?
review before the.
Oh,
zoning
yeah,
board
that's
of
totally
appeals,
fine.
All the, all the other requirements.
They have to just follow the process.
Right, so I just said, let's put it as the whole section, section L, which
Yeah.
is the wireless cell tower, the cell tower section, rather than just the dimensional requirements.
Yeah.
Because then it looks like we're trying to, again,
Circumvent the
Yeah.
process.
I can confirm that with,
I don't know.
Kate says that's fine,
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just for clarification, if anyone raises it,
Yeah.
it's a disposition of municipal property regardless, so the 2/3 vote would be required irrespective of that language.
Right.
But I think it's, I guess, smart to let people know, like, listen, here you still have authority over your own property within the town.
So are you guys saying that we're gonna remove the section piece of it and just say the subsection L?
Section
Or are you
L.
saying section 6?
Section L, so section L is the whole section for the cell tower bylaw.
Okay.
And so it's.
Plus Joe has the amended version and I don't, so that's fine.
Right.
Okay, I'm with you. I get it now. All right. Are there any other questions on Article 29?
So Joe, you'll have Becky send me your amended version of that, so we can.
Article 30, Joe.
All right, Article 30. I move the town vote to amend the Town of Hanson Land Use Regulations zoning bylaw, Section 7, subsection L, personal wireless service facilities by deleting subsection D, 6.d, the words 150 feet, and inserting in its place the words 200 feet. Explanation, to increase the maximum height requirements for cell towers to increase their effectiveness.
Requires a 2/3 vote, right, Joe?
Yes.
Any questions on Article 30? Article 31.
Okay, actually, the Board of Selectmen hasn't voted that one yet, because the question was the 150 and 200, was that relative to the height of the tower, or was it fall zone?
Never mind.
We've got clarification that it's
Motion
based on
to
the-
recommend Article 30.
Second.
Made and seconded. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
5-0 from Board of Selectmen to recommend.
All right, now one more.
One more, Joe. 31.
Article 31, I move the town vote the codification, reorganization, and indexing of the table of contents of the Town of Hanson Land Use Regulations, a copy of which is on file with the town clerk's office. Explanation, housekeeping article to revise the table of contents to reflect the zoning bylaw changes that were made in May of 2017.
And this requires a 2/3 vote, Joe.
Yes.
Are there any questions on Article 31? Thank you, Joe.
All right. Thank you.
Article 32. I move the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen on its behalf to petition the general court to repeal Chapter 214 of the Acts of 1986 and submit for passage of a new special law substantially as provided below. The legislator may make clerical or editorial changes in form only to the bill unless the Board of Selectmen approves amendments to the bill before enactment by the legislature. The Board of Selectmen is hereby authorized to approve amendments that shall be within the scope of the general public objectives of this petition as printed in the warrant. The explanation is this article seeks to better define the circumstances under which an elected official can be recalled. Interpretation of whether one or more of these conditions are met will be rendered by town council. Since the original act was created by Massachusetts legislature through a selectman's petition authorizing by a town meeting, the same is required to effectuate any change. So there's two issues on this particular item. If you guys look at your iPads, item 1E, please. So if you look at the Article 32, there's basically, the change to this is basically going to be in three parts. It's a four-part item. The first one is reasons for the recall, and basically we list 7 reasons for a recall, okay? We made clear on, I'm not going to read each one of them unless anybody objects and wishes me to read them. I would like to point out specifically that item 7 on reasons of recall are violation of law, regulation, bylaw, or other abdication of the applicable requirements for the elected position. So the first item is, again, is for reasons for the recall, which is what's lacking in the current recall process. The second point is the notice of intent to recall, and this is a shot across the bow, okay? Basically, a warning to the person who's going to be recalled, and also to support it in its entirety by getting support of 150 or more registered voters, with a minimum of 25 registered voters from each precinct, okay? The section that I was approached with by a person in our town, which they liked the recall, they were so forth, so on for it. There's a section in here, and I would like to read. It says, I lost my place, hold on, here we go. Section A above, with information sufficient to support the specific grounds for recall at least 170 days before the next annual town election. We would like to probably strike that, or remove that section out and replace it with thereupon order an election to be held within a reasonable length of time after a minimum of 45 days from the town clerk's certification of sufficient petitions, okay? Why are we doing this? Why is this recommended to be changed? So if something happened in June after May elections, right, you would have to wait technically until the next election period, which would be the following May. It didn't make sense, all right? If something so egregious as conviction of felony or some of the other reasons that have been, by the way, these reasons have to now be justified by the legal counsel, all right? So the notice of intent is basically that. You go out, get your signatures, you come up with your reason, you put it all together, and it goes to legal counsel to be reviewed. Okay, and I believe that's done after it's certified. So legal counsel will review it and say, yes, it fits into one of the 7 reasons. It's a separate independent source, it makes sense. So again, we're going to remove the at least 170 days, and what we'll do is we'll simply put in the 45 days from the town clerk certification of sufficient petitions. Are there any questions to this?
So you're going to make an amendment on the floor?
I'll have to make an amendment for the floor. I have it printed out here, and you'll get a copy of it, Beth. The second one we have is under section C, recall petitions. This is the basic work of getting the recall of a selectman in place, okay? You've got to go out and get 10% of Hanson's registered voters from, including at least 100 registered voters from each of the 3 precincts, okay? And there's the same other requirements. What we tried to do was try to make sure that this fit the existing bylaw as best it could under those new ads, which is basically the reasons and the notice of intent, all right? There's a section in the recall petition that says, if the elected official to whom the recall is directed by the Board of Selectmen does not resign the office within 5 business days from the date of notice, the Board of Selectmen shall forthwith order an election to be held on the date of the next town election. Again, that's a problem, right? Especially if the offense is in June and you're going to wait until the following May. Instead, we're going to replace it with the same, basically similar what we said before. If the officer sought to be removed does not resign within 5 days thereafter, thereupon order an election to be held within a reasonable length of time after a minimum of 45 days from the town clerk's certification of the sufficient petitions. Okay? So basically, we're bringing those into alignment. Beth?
Personally, I like the change in it because the election would be held on the same time, so we'd be saving the town money.
I know. That's true.
That's the way I'm looking at it.
I understand. I do. And the problem, again, I see with that, Beth, is that if I've got a convicted criminal somebody who's done something so egregious in June, I'm not gonna wanna wait until May. So, yeah, I could save the town money, or what's the worst part of it? That you're gonna save the town the, $2,000 to do the election, or are we going to have somebody in the office? Whatever the effect, whatever it is, right? If I've got somebody who's done something so significant that they should be removed within a 45-day period, I think it's worth that they should be done.
Jail, they wouldn't even go on the Board of Selectmen.
But that's not just one of the 7 reasons, right?
You don't have to be convicted.
Right.
So,
That goes into the other reasons, right?
and plus to get somebody convicted takes so long. So there's like sufficient facts for a conviction, there's a lot of other.
Domestic disturbance, driving under the influence, illegal manufacture of drugs, all those things, right? I don't know. To me, it doesn't make sense to wait 170 days.
So you have to amend this on the floor?
Yes, and I'll give this to Sean, I'll give it to Beth, and we'll have, if it's worth it, I'll read it. It makes sense to me. It's basically a change to the 170 days on both sections. It's bringing them in alignment. Okay?
That would probably.
Are there further questions on this, or?
How did you guys even vote on this?
We did. Normally, for example, something like this where we kind of say, is this something that has a financial impact?
Yeah.
Should we take a look at it? This meeting, we agreed to render a decision on every article presented. And quite frankly, part of this, our thought process on this particular article was, the potential changes to, is this really worthy? Is this an egregious act? And quite frankly, from a financial impact, exactly what Beth said, is are we spending additional dollars on additional elections, recall expenses, whatever the case may be.
So we voted 4-0.
4-0 to recommend?
We recommend.
Okay.
I mean, I understand the concerns of the costs, I get it. But we have those same concerns and issues under the current bylaw, too. All right. Article 33. Who's scheduled to read Article 33?
The moderator usually just says he hears a motion to adjourn
I'll do
to
it.
town election.
Go ahead, Ken.
I move to bring in votes for the following offices: a moderator for 1 year, 2 selectmen for 3 years, an assessor for 3 years, a board of health member for 3 years, a cemetery commissioner for 3 years, a member of the housing authority for 5 years, member of the planning board for 5 years, 2 constables for 3 years, 2 trustees of the public library for 3 years, a member of the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District pre-K through 12 for 3 years, 2 water commissioners for 3 years. That's Article 3.
Are there any questions?
33.
Thank you, Kenny. Any questions to this? All right, excellent. And that will conclude our preview of the town meeting for May 7th. It's a good draft and a good run-through. We got some changes to make.
You want to take a motion to adjourn?
Actually, no, it's town administrator's report, I
Oh,
believe.
sorry.
I was just waiting.
Mike
I wasn't sure if
McHugh,
Mike
town
had anything.
administrator's report.
You have anything for us, Mike?
Yeah, I can go through it real quick. The Board of Selectmen, along with a lot of other officials here in town, I received an email from our Veterans Agent, Tim White. It's an update on where we stand with the Memorial Day Parade. He's reached out and asked a couple of questions that I'd like the Board of Selectmen and everyone who received this email if there's any input, to get back to him. He's looking for some assistance in a couple of
I don't remember seeing that email.
contacts. It was sent. Actually, it was sent this afternoon at 3:00. So you may not have seen it yet. So he's moving forward quite well on it. This is his first Memorial Day parade, but he's asking for some help in establishing a couple of contacts that he hasn't been able So take a look when you have a chance, and if you have anything to give Tim, please,
I think he was looking to contact Devin Dondero,
There was
because I can help him with that.
There was
if
like
he-
3 or
yeah.
4 different towards
Okay.
the end,
Yeah.
but, and the majority of the update was positive. He's putting everything in place, and I don't expect there to be any hiccups. The board was given out within the last day or so a copy of the RFP that I'm going to put out tomorrow for legal representation. I did speak with current town council to explain that it wasn't a reflection, it was just good business practice, so
Yep.
I gave them the consideration of letting them know that was gonna happen. So I will put that out tomorrow, and, when the information comes back, we'll review and we'll make recommendations on whether to retain or move forward. I would like to ask the Board of Selectmen, and I'm not sure if there was time enough today to get you a copy of the contract that I have put together with the assistance of town council for the facilities manager. It's a basic vendor contract that town council had put together for us about a year or so ago. I simply put in the particulars that have to do with this particular vended position. So I would ask the Board of Selectmen, if they're so inclined, to vote to authorize me to execute that contract pursuant to, and I did send the final version to town council with the additions, pursuant to an agreement from town council, so we can move forward on this.
Did you share that agreement with us? I just don't remember.
Yeah, it was only today that it was sent out, and like I said, it's boilerplate. It's been vetted by town council, and it will continue, again, with a couple of additions that I put into it. That's been also sent back to town council. So if town council approves the little bit of particulars that I put in that was pursuant to the job description, I would like the Board of Selectmen to vote to authorize me to execute that contract in the next couple of days so we can get somebody in place. The next chance that we really have to consider something like this is after town meeting, so.
So
I don't think
contingent
you
upon,
sent it to them. You
Oh, no, I
you
didn't.
just sent it to me.
Yeah, and like I said, I wasn't sure if there was time to send it to them, but again, it would be in concert with town council.
Okay.
so you are looking for a
A
motion
motion.
to enter into a contract contingent upon legal counsel?
Yes.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 5-0, Mike.
Thank you. I look forward to moving forward on that. I want to let the board know that I spent the majority of today at Norfolk Aggie. They had, the Inspector General's office had a day-long seminar on the ins and outs of basically a building project. The particular building project was something they had put up at Norfolk Aggie, so there was a little bit that was particular to the MSBA school process. But by and large, the procurement requirements, the timelines, the ins and outs of any public building project are exactly the same. I found it very valuable. And actually, the real value I got out of it was not only did the Norfolk Aggie, but another school district went over all of the mistakes they made. So, I was able to make notes on that, and hopefully we won't make those sorts of mistakes. In particular, hopefully as we move forward with the new highway project, the highway barn project. So it was very valuable. I wanted to let the board know that. On April the 18th, my monthly coffee at the senior center, I introduced our new recreation director, Josh Wolf, and we had a very good conversation with some of the seniors there as to what sort of outreach the camp can do in regards to senior services. So as I am often off to do when I have these coffees, if I have a new member of staff, I like to bring the new member of staff, introduce them to that particular portion of our
I noticed the Recreation Commission put out a survey, which I thought was awesome, asking people, they advertised it in social media and various other places, asking people for input for recreational programs. I thought that was a great first step for him to take so early in the game. So.
Very proactive.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's coming along. We have very high hopes for Josh. On a lighter note, unfortunately, I had scheduled our Arbor Day event for a time and day in which there was a downpour. So I postponed that. The tentative date now is May the 8th at 5 o'clock. It's a Tuesday, which, in thinking forward, it would also afford the ability for members of staff to participate or to observe, since we stay open on Tuesdays. So I think that's, if we couldn't do it on Arbor Day, I think that's the next best thing, to do it on a Tuesday.
And what time is that going to be?
5 o'clock.
Okay.
So I had it for this Friday, Mike, which was not gonna happen, right?
No.
All right, not gonna make it.
Okay.
I said you won't make it. You know, with all that traffic.
Two other quick things. We opened the paving bid for the ensuing fiscal year at the highway. We awarded it to a company moving forward. There were only 2 bidders, and obviously we gave it to low bidders, so we've taken care of that for the next fiscal year. Actually, 3 things. I will be having a meeting with Jim Fitzgerald from Environmental Partners on the 10th of May. Also with one of the business owners that is contiguous to the project that we're looking to do, signalization up at the confluence of County, High, and Liberty Street. Again, that will be the 10th of May during the day. We wanted to reach out to business owners that could be affected or might have input. So we're moving forward on that. As I think the board is aware, we need to get all that completed before the end of the ensuing fiscal year. So, again, May the 10th. And I had hoped to have the improvements to Town Hall security and access in process by now. As it turns out, the vendor that our IT people brought before us actually was not on the state bid list, so I've instructed them to go out and get 2 more quotes pursuant with the laws, procurement laws, the 30B laws. So they've told me they will get those to me before the end of the week, and we'll go with whoever the lowest bidder is per the regulations, and hopefully we'll have that moving within the next week or so. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mike.
Good question. Who got the paving bid?
What's that?
Paving bid.
And I wrote it down, Kenny, and I lost the piece of
aggregate?
paper. Yeah, I'm sorry, it was aggregate. It was Terry Edwards, and it was aggregate, and aggregate got it. It was,
Thank you.
I think it was about a $5 difference per unit, so it was, so it was significant.
Okay.
Mike, are we making any progress on the social media policy?
Yeah, actually, she's still here. Yeah, actually, Beth and I had talked, not Beth, I'm sorry, Kate and I, actually, I had sent Kate the changes that Leo had given to us, because Leo looked at it as Labor Council, so now it's back. Again, I want to make sure that all of our attorneys are on board with this. So I'm hoping actually to bring it before the next board that's going to sit, on the 22nd, I think we said, yeah.
When did you send it to me?
Oh, it was last week. It's all right.
I'll look.
Yeah, I sent it to Jay.
Maybe you
as
sent it
well.
to Jay. Maybe
Yeah,
you
yeah,
sent it to
I
Jay.
may have sent it to Jay. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments to Mike?
No.
All good? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. I think we've covered everything.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I just wanted to thank everybody. This will be my second to last meeting, but this will be my last meeting here at this office in this room. It's been a pleasure to serve on the board with you folks, and of course with the prior members as well. I'll miss you guys. I've learned a great deal, and I wish the next board who comes in on May 19th the best. I'm sure, I believe the old adage that, leave it better than when you came in, right? So I believe that's been done. I hope it has. Just don't forget about our old folks, right? Everybody remembers about the kids. I know we joked about it earlier, right, Jim? Earlier today,
You're
but
way older than me.
yeah, we got to remember the elderly in our town too. So I want to thank you all for allowing me to serve, and it's been a pleasure. So
Thank you.
Thank you all. And with that, we are officially adjourned. Thank you all, and have a good evening.